Chapter 268. Lin Feng was indeed shocked. From the 5th stage to the 6th stage of the Spirit of Talent, it was a long way to go, but cultivating here, it was 100 times faster than the cultivation speed. With the true Dragon Saint power, his spiritual power cultivation speed had increased by 10 times, and the growth was too shocking. Cultivating here will take as little as 2 days and as long as 3 days. The Spirit of Talent will definitely be able to step from the 5th stage to the 6th stage. Lin Feng was certain. However, for him, although spiritual power was widely used, it was not really used for cultivation. It was more used as an auxiliary. In terms of importance, it was far less important than the Spirit of Earth. After running the 5th level of the Ruthless Spectrum for a round, Lin Feng immediately gave up. There were gains and losses. Cultivating here, he could not be careless at all. Dividing his attention would only lead to failure. 9 Dragon Scripture, 5th level. Lin Feng did not use the 6th level of the 9 Dragon Scripture that he was still not proficient in. Taking one step at a time, the most important thing now was proficiency and perfect control without any mistakes. Everything else was secondary. Phew! Lin Feng opened his eyes. He frowned slightly. Although there was the increase of the true Dragon Saint power, the improvement of the Spirit of Earth cultivation speed was not as obvious as that of the Spirit of Talent. About 10 times, Lin Feng made a clear judgment. Compared to the 5th level of the artificial pyramid, the cultivation speed was indeed 10 times faster. However, compared to the cultivation of the Spirit of Talent, it was not just a little bit. Although the 5th level of the 9 Dragon Scripture was supplemented by the true Dragon Saint powers 5 times increase, the absorption speed of the 5th level of the Ruthless Spectrum was 3 times faster, but the Spirit of Talent had the true Dragon Saint powers 10 times increase, which had already left the Spirit of Earth behind. Not to mention here, it was another 10 times difference. On the 5th level of the artificial pyramid, not counting the treasures of heaven and earth, it took 2 years of cultivation to upgrade the Spirit of Earth to the 6th stage. Here, it also took 80 days. What was the reason? Is it because the energy here is more suitable for the Spirit of Talent to cultivate? Lin Feng pondered and suddenly thought of the 2-headed dog monster. Although it was a beast, it obviously cultivated the Spirit of Earth and was strong in body and holy qi. Lin Feng was deep in thought. Perhaps it was a coincidence, but it was more likely to be natural. It's the true Dragon Saint power. Lin Feng quickly understood what he was cultivating on Earth. The golden dragon circling around the innate soul remained motionless. It was like a ferocious tiger that was fed grass every day. Naturally, it wasn't interested. But here, pieces of fat meat were thrown at him. Only then did the tiger begin to devour. According to Li Jixing, holy qi was closely related to the soul of the earth. In that case, the saint energy must be connected to the innate soul. Rather than saying that the innate soul is absorbing spiritual energy, it would be more accurate to say that the golden dragon is absorbing the true Dragon Saint power. Drive the absorption of the innate soul. Lin Feng nodded. If he had obtained one of the saint qi, the absorption of the soul of the earth would be very different. But now, since I can only choose one, then I'll choose the cultivation of the innate talent soul. Lin Feng made his choice. Although I don't know where I am, there's one thing that is universal no matter where I am. The stronger one was, the safer one would be. Ares' temple. Leon opened his eyes. In front of him was a golden lion emitting a strong power. Dressed in the golden Leo constellation saint robe, Ascarter was like a war god slowly walking over. Every step was filled with tyrannical power. Pope, Ascarter said respectfully. Don't worry, the light of Ares' constellation has not been extinguished. He is still alive. Leon said. Ascarter said, I understand. The most dangerous stage is past. Leon's eyes lit up. He shook his head. Knowing your place is not necessarily a good thing. Fortune and misfortune come hand in hand. To reap the rewards, you must first pay the price. Over there are unlimited opportunities and challenges. Even if it is just the tip of the iceberg, if you can obtain even a little bit, you will benefit immensely. Escarter clenched his fist, with a trace of ferocious aura. Although I almost died in that desert, but it was a blessing in disguise, I obtained the purest power. Leon said softly, if you have 3 more years, you might be able to surpass the current Sharjah. Escarter's eyes sparkled. Golden saint robe, shining like stars in the Ares temple. Leon and Escart looked at each other, their expressions grave. That monster in the Pacific Ocean, is it really stronger than Teacher Sharjah? Escarter asked. According to Planet Nemo's standards, this is a high-level demon beast that is about to become a beast lord, which is what we call an extinct high-level demon beast. Leon said slowly. The true martial emperor's strength is comparable to a low-level demon beast on Planet Nemo. Against this high-level demon beast, he is naturally not a match, and Sharjah, although stronger than the true martial emperor, he can only preserve his life. Also, there is that demon. He is even scarier than this high-level demon beast. Escarter did not understand. Wasn't he defeated by Teacher Sharjah? Both sides suffered great losses. Leon said, demons are selfish by nature, not to mention this kind of demon master. That day, if he did not care about his life and destroyed everything, not only would Sharjah not be able to escape death, all the human powerhouses present would be buried with him. He was already heavily injured. Now that Earth Spirit energy is less than 10%, he needs level 2 universal energy, but the energy here is too thin. He needs a long time to recover. The Demon Master's strength is similar to a Beast Lord. He is much scarier than that high-level demon beast, and very ambitious. Leon sighed softly. Earth is really full of disasters. Escarter said in a low voice. Natural disasters can be avoided, but the human heart is truly terrifying. Leon said regretfully, like treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. Earth is full of disasters. Many times, we are passive and helpless. To solve this problem, we can only rely on this little guy, if he can come back safely. Don't worry, Pope. Escarter looked serious. He will definitely come back. Definitely. In the cave of Black Rock Mountain, Lin Feng was cultivating. His injuries had already recovered. The golden dragon devoured the energy hungrily. Even though it only gave 10% of the energy to the soul of talent, it still allowed the soul of talent to grow rapidly. The bright light ball kept expanding and spinning rapidly, bringing with it traces of spirit energy into his body. Even the mind expanse was rapidly increasing. The 5th level of the Heartless Spectrum, True Dragon Saint Power, 10 times stronger. Originally, when he cultivated on the 5th level of the man-made pyramid, it would take him 8 months to reach the 6th level without stopping. Now, it would take him at most 3 days to cultivate 100 times faster than the 5th level of the man-made pyramid. 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours, 12 hours. Whoosh! Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes in the middle of cultivation, his face solemn. A majestic force spread out from the depths of his mind. The power of heaven that made people tremble appeared. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He was pleasantly surprised. To be continued. Chapter 269. The golden light was dazzling. Roar! The dragon's roar reverberated in the sea of consciousness. The golden dragon changed rapidly, like a young dragon growing up. Layers of scales covered its body and circled around the talent soul. Its body size doubled, and it exuded powerful energy. Its dragon eyes were bright, and it was as close to the talent soul as blood was thicker than water. The 2nd level of the True Dragon Saint Power. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. The power of the energy was beyond his imagination. At this moment, the True Dragon Saint Power was like an awakened dragon with a noble bloodline, roaring in his body. The true dragon mark on his chest glowed clearly, and a golden dragon appeared behind him, looking very powerful. Spiritual power. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. His control of spiritual power was flawless and extremely subtle. Titanium grade body, 2nd level. Lin Feng used it in a split second. Originally, it was still a little difficult, but now it was like a clean and neat slash of the blade, moving at will. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly. The true dragon's saint power ran through his meridians like the spine of his body, and his control of the titanium power was condensed to the extreme. Pa! Pa! His body expanded, and Lin Feng's muscles bulged, and his blood vessels swelled. Boom! A majestic power surged out and spread throughout his body. The titanium power in his body was like a dragon roaring. A faint light shone all over his body, and the golden dragon behind him was mighty. Lin Feng clenched his fist and felt the powerful power. He could not hide his excitement. Titanium gray body, 3rd level. He had achieved it easily. The strength of the true dragon saint power was indeed amazing. Cultivate the 10 flying knife scrolls. This thought suddenly appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Now that his talent soul had surpassed the earth spirit, the difference between having saint power and not having saint chi was too big. This could be seen from Li Jixing's strength, not to mention that his true dragon saint power was already at the 2nd level. I didn't expect the true dragon saint power to break through so quickly, Lin Feng said softly. He suddenly remembered when he was in the Saint Crystal Array. Senior Xiang Yu also praised his true dragon aptitude. Now it seemed that it was not bad. At least, it surpassed his thunder aptitude. Wind aptitude was 1st class. We'll talk about it later. Lin Feng was also helpless. Even if he managed to master the 10 scrolls of flying daggers, the problem was he did not even have a single flying dagger. Continue cultivating. Even though the true dragon saint power had reached the 2nd tier. But it was just a pleasant surprise. Compared to the 2nd level of the true dragon saint power, Lin Feng would rather obtain one of the 2 types of saint chi. It was the right way to improve his strength. In order to survive in this strange world, one had to be strong enough. The 5th level of the heartless spectrum. Lin Feng had just started cultivating. In an instant, he was stunned. The truly overwhelming energy surged madly, as if it was going to burst his sea of consciousness. The golden dragon soared and roared. Compared to the 1st level, this was the truly loud and ear-splitting dragon roar. Clank! More than 90% of the boundless energy had been absorbed. The golden dragon continued to devour crazily. There was still only 10% of the energy left. However, it was 10 times more than the previous 10%. Bang! 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 Lin Feng could hear his own heartbeat. His blood was boiling, but it was also extremely cold. He was afraid that his sea of consciousness would be burst by this huge amount of energy. It surged madly like a tide. In the endless sea of consciousness, the talent spirit expanded rapidly and almost doubled in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng did not dare to be distracted at all. His body was already soaked in sweat. If he was walking on a single plank bridge on a cliff before, then now he was walking on a tightrope. 1,000 times faster cultivation. He was extremely nervous as he cultivated. To Lin Feng, this was definitely an experience that he had never experienced before. It was as if he was tossing and turning between heaven and hell. He could only feel the roar of the golden dragon in his sea of consciousness, as if it had been starving for a long time. This golden dragon felt it was still not complete. The 1st tier of the golden dragon was like a human child. The 2nd tier was like a teenager. There was still a 3rd tier. Lin Feng vaguely felt that the golden dragon could continue to improve. There was no need to doubt. Since there was a 2nd tier, there would naturally be a 3rd tier. Just as Li Jixing said, there was no limit to everything in the world. However, to him, whether the true dragon saint power could improve was not important. What was important was, the talent spirit had a breakthrough. Whoosh, it was extremely bright. The ball of light in his sea of consciousness seemed to have really become a star. In the starry sky, it was the only existence. Invisible and colorless spiritual power gushed out in an instant. With the sea of consciousness as the center, it spread out and poured into the depths of the brain, prying open the unknown domain. In an instant, his eyes became brighter and everything around him became clearer. It was as if a blurry shadow had appeared clearly. Spiritual power spread throughout his body, strengthening it. Compared to spiritual energy, the strengthening effect of spiritual power on the body was average. However, Lin Feng's physical foundation was extremely high. Coupled with the titanium gray body, the advantages were even more obvious. The talent spirit is like talent. Lin Feng smiled. The talent spirit could make people smarter and have stronger comprehension. The scientists of ancient Huaxia and M Nation were all awakened by the talent spirit. Only then could they develop more powerful technology. From the ancient martial era to the war era, in just 100 years, the development of science and technology had changed with each passing day. It had increased by more than 100 times because of the talent spirit. The sixth stage. At the same time, his brain expanse had already exceeded 55%. It had transformed from a beginner Sea King to a mid-level Sea King powerhouse. 5 times. Lin Feng murmured. The true dragon holy power did not have any effect on spiritual energy, but it had a good effect on the 9-dragon scripture. Originally, the first level of the true dragon holy power increased the effect of the 9-dragon scripture by 150%. Now, the absorption of the 9-dragon scripture had reached 500%, which was 5 times. However, without the addition of holy qi, it only shortened the 80 days of cultivation time to 40 days. Lin Feng got up. He could not afford to waste 40 days. This cave was completely in a half-open state and was not hidden. He could hide for half a day, but 40 days, who knew what would happen? It was too dangerous. The second level of the true dragon holy qi, the 6th stage of the talent spirit. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. If he were to break into the Ares temple again, he had an 80% chance of breaking through the crystal wall. Even if he were to defeat Leon, he had a 50-50 chance. The energy of heaven and earth here is extremely strong. With all kinds of elements mixed together, it is definitely a rare treasure land. Lin Feng felt extremely challenged in his heart. Right now, it was as if he had entered a treasure mountain and found a pile of gold. He would not leave. It was too wasteful. Let's eat it first. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the flaming scaled fruit. It was a spirit fruit that surpassed the level of a heaven treasure. Just the bumpy and jagged skin alone had the defense of a legend ranker. Previously, he would have to use a saber to hack it, but now, spiritual energy surged out. The second level of the true dragon holy power was so powerful that it was easy for his spiritual energy to deal with the defenseless skin. Crack! A crack appeared on the surface of the flaming scaled fruit, as if it was forcefully pulled open by a pair of invisible hands. In an instant, a strange fragrance filled the air. The fiery red fruit was revealed. It was extremely rich in energy. Chapter 270. Lin Feng took a bite. It was as soft as a peach, in sharp contrast to the hard skin. It was sweet and melted instantly, turning into juice that flowed into his body. Powerful energy spread in his body, hot and warm, very similar to the 9-dragon scripture. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he didn't dare to be careless. This one bite was comparable to the power of 10 thunderbolt pearls. However, when the powerful flame power merged into his body, he didn't feel any pain. Instead, he felt unusually comfortable. Lin Feng was stunned. Is it because I've absorbed the power of the flame? Lin Feng instantly thought of this, but he immediately rejected it. He had absorbed the power of the lightning time and time again, but his body still felt pain and was baptized by powerful energy. It's because of the fruit. Lin Feng nodded. This fruit that was beyond the heavenly treasure level should be classified as a holy treasure. It perfectly converted the holy qi energy into a non-aggressive energy that was easier to absorb, like taming a bad-tempered horse. The flaming scale fruit wasn't big. Lin Feng quickly finished it. An endless flame power merged into his cells. Different from normal absorption, the energy of the flaming scale fruit was converted and had nothing to do with one's aptitude. Even if one's aptitude was poor, eating a flaming scale fruit would produce some flame power in one's body. Moreover, absorbing it was effortless. This flame is very strong, Lin Feng said to himself. It seemed to be the same kind as the two-headed dog's flame. Wait, Lin Feng was stunned. Could it be that the two-headed dog's flame holy chi came from the flaming scale fruit? Thinking of this, Lin Feng's eyes widened. The possibility was not small. If so, there should be more than one flaming scale fruit. There should be other flaming scale fruits in the nearby area. If the two-headed dog can pick it, of course I can. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he thought to himself. He did it as soon as he thought of it. Lin Feng was never afraid of a challenge. One man and one sword. Then they left the cave. Although it was hailstones outside and the entire area was extremely cold, Lin Feng's blood was boiling at this moment. Even the two-headed hound monster could have holy chi, so he definitely could, although he didn't know where this place was. Why did he come here? But he had to survive. Swish! Lin Feng's body flashed and shifted. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of hailstones with a diameter of 10 meters came crashing down, smashing into a crater in the valley where he had been running. Lin Feng felt that he was very lucky. His talent soul had been upgraded, and his true dragon saint power had reached the 2nd level. Not to mention anything else, it had been a great help. Just now, it was a telepathic connection. However, with his strength, even if he took it head-on, he would at most suffer some light injuries. The land of desolation. As far as the eye could see, Lin Feng chose to go in the opposite direction from where he had come from. After carefully galloping for more than 10 minutes, there was still no end in sight. It's getting colder. The direction is not right. Lin Feng muttered to himself. What he was looking for was the flaming scaled fruit. No matter how he thought about it, there was no reason for the flaming scaled fruit to grow in a world of ice and snow. Furthermore, it was too dangerous to blindly take risks before they had a clear understanding of this area. Go back the way you came. Let's change to another path and explore again. With a black rock mountain as the center, Lin Feng chose to explore in a circular manner. Although it took some time, at least the safety factor had increased by a lot. Fortunately, he had chosen a right path the 2nd time. It's so hot, Lin Feng exclaimed. Previously, the sky was filled with hailstones. The temperature below minus 20 degrees Celsius had instantly exceeded 100 degrees Celsius. The hailstones had long disappeared, but the ground was like lava, constantly spitting out tongues of fire. It was like lava under his feet. The fiery red color was in the shape of cracks. Cultivating the 9-dragon scripture here will definitely be twice the result with half the effort. It's not worse than the lava of the St. Crystal Array. Lin Feng nodded. Compared to this place, the sacred site of Shiva's sect, it was like a small child meeting a great one. It was not worth mentioning. Even if his soul of the earth was only at the 5th stage and his flame aptitude was not high, he believed that it would not be difficult to obtain flame Saint Chi within 10 days to half a month. Only this place could be seen at a glance. The sky was vast. The land was vast, and there was no place like the Black Rock Mountain to rest. The only thing that existed was a river of ice and fire. Lying between the hailstones and flames, the river was only a few hundred meters long. It could be crossed with a leap. The entire river of ice and fire was like a battlefield. Hailstones and flames intertwined, freezing thousands of miles. In an instant, it was like a raging sea of fire. It was a wonderful scene. However, Lin Feng did not enter the river. What a joke. Adventurers in the wilderness all knew that lakes and rivers were much more dangerous than land. Moreover, the flaming scale fruit could not be in the river. He continued to move cautiously for 5 minutes. The terrain was constantly descending, but the temperature was rapidly increasing. Anything below the wilderness level would probably be burned to ashes. Lin Feng looked into the distance. He could vaguely see a huge mountain range in the distance. The fiery red color was endless, and it was very majestic, but it was like a cannon constantly shooting out flames. Volcanoes. No wonder it's so hot. The power of the flames is amazing. It's because of the volcanoes. The closer he got to the volcanoes, the more dangerous it was. Even if there were no other creatures, Lin Feng knew that he could not get close to the volcanoes. The temperature alone was unbearable. Flaming scale fruit. Lin Feng muttered softly. He looked around. If there were still flaming scale fruits, then it would most likely be in this area. Firstly, the two-headed dog monster could come and go as it pleased. Secondly, only such a fiery place could produce such a fruit with such rich power of fire. Soon there, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The instant discovery made Lin Feng very surprised. Although he could not see clearly, the second level of the True Dragon Saint Power Search was very clear. If the flaming scale fruit existed, it must have signs of life. He could detect its direction with just a scan. He sped through the Valley of Flames. Although he was getting closer and closer to the flaming scale fruit, Lin Feng did not let down his guard. Compared to the lightning and hailstones at the Black Rock Mountain, this place was undoubtedly much quieter. Other than the occasional eruption of the volcano, it only consumed a lot of spirit chi. Whoosh! After passing through the obstacles, his eyes suddenly opened up. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he looked at the countless flaming scale fruit trees, like a forest. He was extremely shocked. On top of each fruit tree, there were at least a few dozen fruits, and at most hundreds and thousands of flaming scale fruits of all sizes. Some were ripe, and some were young. Thump! Thump! Lin Feng's heart beat extremely fast. He was a little confused. If the flaming scale fruit was a holy treasure, then here, how many holy treasures were there? Tens of thousands? Or 100,000? Whoosh! Lin Feng instantly rushed into the fruit tree garden. As his body rose and fell, the golden dragon roared and spiritual power surged out. Pa! Clap! Lin Feng picked the flaming scale fruits one by one. Although he did not know what was good, it was always right to pick the big ones. Anyway, he had to cut off the big and small ones. Just like the skin of the flaming scale fruit, the branches were also of the same level of defense. 5, 10, 15. Lin Feng picked excitedly. Lin Feng's face was flushed with excitement as he picked the fruits. Suddenly, Lin Feng's expression changed. Roar! Roar! In the distance, a roar accompanied by extreme anger shocked the land of flames. Lin Feng looked over, and his eyes widened. Dozens of two-headed hound monsters were charging at them furiously. Their target was Lin Feng. It was him. Chapter 271. Lin Feng was a little dumbfounded. He had already experienced how fast the two-headed hound monster was. He had suffered a great loss previously. This is troublesome. Lin Feng clenched his teeth tightly. Just one two-headed dog monster was enough to make him badly battered. Now, there were more than 10 of them, and a few of them were even bigger than the previous one. Their auras were even stronger. Boundless flames covered their bodies, and the auras of their ferocious heads were extremely violent. Dead end. Run. At that moment, Lin Feng could no longer care about the flaming scaled fruit. He turned and ran. If he fought head-on, he would only die. Shin Kite. Lin Feng used all his strength. With the second level of the True Dragon Saint power, he controlled his spiritual power to the limit. There was no hail here, so he did not have to worry about his safety. The only thing he had to consider was where to run to. Actually, there was no need to think about it anymore. Wherever the two-headed dog monster came from, he would run in the opposite direction. It was the same no matter where he went. In this area, there was no absolute safety. Xiao. Lin Feng was like light and shadow. Shin Kite's speed was even faster than before. However, the gravity here was 10 times stronger than on Earth. There were many pursuers behind him, but there were only 7 of them instead of 10. Only the 7 two-headed dog monsters could keep up with his speed or even be faster than him, especially the leading two-headed dog monster. It was 3 times bigger than the one he killed. The fur on its body was like dark red flames, and the strange horn on its head was terrifying. Bang! Flames spewed out furiously. The shocking flames were deeper, stronger, and had a wider range. Xiao. Lin Feng flew straight up. In terms of speed, he was not as fast as these two-headed dog monsters, but at least he could fly. If he flew high enough, the two-headed dog monsters would not be able to attack him. However, the moment Lin Feng flew into the air, the extremely chaotic sky above his head suddenly became filled with black clouds. Lightning flashed. Oh no! Lin Feng's expression changed. For a moment, he forgot about the cruel natural disasters in this area. Thunder and lightning. Ta! Lin Feng jumped down from the divine kite without any hesitation. In the next instant, the sound of thunder rumbled endlessly. The divine kite was struck by the violent thunder until nothing was left of it. Metal attracted thunder, especially at such a high altitude. Lin Feng's face was ghastly pale. The violent airwaves had also caused him quite a bit of damage. However, the most terrifying part was yet to come. One by one, two-headed dog monsters opened their bloody mouths, waiting for him. TSK. Bang! Clusters of flames spewed out from the ferocious beast's mouth. This group of two-headed dog monsters simply did not give Lin Feng any chance to resist. The moment they hit the ground, they would be burned to ashes. Lin Feng, great despair. Flying sword. Jian Chao's flying sword appeared beneath his feet. Lin Feng abruptly changed his direction in midair and sped away. Although his speed was not as fast as Shun Yuan's, at least it had saved his life. Falling into this group of two-headed dog monsters, the result was clear even without fighting. However, he was now caught in a dilemma. If he flew up into the air, he would definitely suffer the same fate as the divine kite. However, if he didn't fly up below, the four eyes of the two-headed dog monsters were already blood-red, and there was far more than one of them. Speed. He needed to have sufficient speed to shake off these two-headed dog monsters. Lin Feng's speed was not weak, but he was only an intermediate Sea King after all. If he was an intermediate titled Sea King, he would be able to shake off these two-headed dog monsters with his speed alone. However, right now, there was only one way left. If I don't succeed, I'll die trying. Lin Feng made a prompt decision. He already had no other choice. The flying sword sped away, and he could vaguely feel a cold aura from afar. Lin Feng's second stage of the true dragon holy power suddenly erupted. However, the two-headed dog monsters behind him were getting closer and closer. The distance that he had just opened up after pausing was exhausted in the blink of an eye. Angry roars resounded in his ears. 100 meters. 50 meters. 30 meters. Lin Feng felt the scorching heat behind him. It's going to spit fire again. Lin Feng knew that things were not going well, but he was also helpless. With his current strength, other than dodging, there was no way for him to go head-on against the two-headed dog monster's flames. He gritted his teeth. The flying sword suddenly cut through the air at a 45-degree angle and went straight into the clouds. Boom! The sky seemed to be angry again. Sure enough, there is a powerful force maintaining order, Lin Feng secretly said in his heart. His outstanding senses had already detected the blood and death. The flying sword. It was also made of alloy. However, right now, he was only trying to avoid the two-headed dog monster's pursuit. Lin Feng looked not far away. The flying sword broke through the air. He used the last of his strength. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and used all his strength. At the moment when the Thunder God was angry again, he jumped down from mid-air. This time he had no scruples, because his landing point was impeccable. It was the river of ice and fire. Bang! Bang! The flames were monstrous. However, the two-headed dog monsters seemed to be extremely afraid of the river, or perhaps they were not good at water. They only set fire across the riverbank, so the power was greatly reduced. Lin Feng roared and summoned thunder in midair. In an instant, it collided with the blazing flames, but it did not change direction. Bang! Lin Feng sank into the river like a stone. The furious roar of the two-headed dog monsters lingered in his ears. The blazing flames were burning on the river's surface, but he had already entered the river of ice and fire. There was no other choice. He would die if he moved horizontally or vertically. He might as well take a gamble. Moreover, Lin Feng had an inexplicable sense of familiarity with lakes and rivers. He had escaped several times in the water. Wah! The spiritual power broke through the river. But in the next moment, hiss! Hiss! Countless strange blue fish rushed out from all directions. They had sharp teeth, but no scales. They were like slippery loaches. Their eyes flashed, and they opened their mouths to reveal extremely sharp teeth. This time Lin Feng could not hide. He had just escaped from the tiger's den and entered the wolf's den. Thunderbolt of winter. Profound thunder hell. Lin Feng instantly unleashed 2 attacks with the speed of a thunderbolt. The 9 secret thunder blade triggered the roar of thunder. Lin Feng endured the pain. Dozens of strange-fanged fish were killed, but in an instant, even more strange-fanged fish rushed over from all directions. Hiss! Lin Feng gritted his teeth and dived down. Lakes and rivers had an unspoken rule. The deeper one went, the stronger the monsters would be. It was like the concept of territory. Rather than fighting with these endless strange fangs, it was better to go down and find a way to survive. Otherwise, even if he was not killed, he would be electrocuted and die. Lin Feng would not give up. Time and time again, he had a stronger fighting spirit and perseverance than ordinary martial artists. He would not give up until the last moment. As expected, these strange-fanged fish did not chase after him. Seeing Lin Feng dive in, they gathered together and retreated. However, Lin Feng's crisis was not resolved. It could not be removed. Boom! The astonishing power of ice appeared, and the river instantly froze. Lin Feng's back was cold. Not long after he dived down, another monster came. Wave after wave, like a surging tide. Without waiting for him to react, the terrifying power of ice had already penetrated his heart. Even if he was so far away, he could still feel it clearly. It was comparable to the strongest 2-headed dog monster. Extinction level. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Chapter 272. Run. Lin Feng didn't even have time to react. In an instant, he dived deeper, and the second level of the true dragon holy power erupted. Lin Feng only had one thought at the moment. Escape. The river of ice and fire, as he expected, had a universe inside. Big universe. Endless tyrannical natural disasters couldn't destroy this river of ice and fire. It would be strange if there weren't monsters like the 2-headed dog in it. After all, on land, one had to face all kinds of disasters, but the river had natural protection, and all kinds of monsters could grow under this protection. Go down. Keep going down. Lin Feng only had one path in front of him. If he went up, not only would he be attacked by the fang monster fish, but the extinction-level ice monster would also not let him go. As for jumping out of the river, not to mention whether the extinction-level ice monster would catch up, the 2-headed dog monsters on the shore could kill him hundreds of times. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng's expression was a little ugly. Even with spiritual energy protecting his body, he could feel the strong water pressure. The gravity 10 times that of Earth's was already terrifying, and the water pressure also increased. However, he had to go even if he didn't want to. Behind him, there was a strong cold air from the ice monster. Lin Feng only felt his hands and feet go numb, and he didn't even see what it looked like. Escape. Before he had time to see if it caught up, there was a scorching heat coming from the river. Another extinction level. Lin Feng was almost numb. All he could see was a huge, fiery red existence with the head of a tiger and the tail of a whale. It had arms as strong as a kangaroo's, and it roared furiously as it waved its arms. It broke through the river, and flames danced with its arms, causing rumbling sounds. Buzz! Lin Feng's head rumbled, and he almost subconsciously blocked it. Sky-spinning thunder. The 9U Thunderblade attracted the thunder of heaven and earth, and the river formed a large vortex. It weakened the power of the flames. However, the fist was so terrifying that it went through the vortex and went straight for his chest. Lin Feng's eyes widened. As if he was heavily hammered in the chest, he spat out blood and retreated. However, the monster with a tiger's head and a whale's tail punched again. Pung, pung, pung. This time, Lin Feng felt as if his heart was being shattered. Roar! The golden dragon in his body burst forth, protecting his entire body. Fortunately, he was still far away. If he had been struck directly, he would not have needed 2 punches. 1 punch would have been enough to kill him. Even so, the flaming holy chi in his fist still rushed into his body. Lin Feng was already heavily injured. A dead end. Super heavy titanium domain, the limit. Lin Feng's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. There were only a total of 3 layers of the super heavy titanium domain, and each layer had a special effect. Lin Feng had already cultivated to the third layer. Although he could not increase the effect, his power could still continue to increase. Especially the gravity restriction. Come quickly. Lin Feng's eyes were bloodshot as he rushed up. Even in a desperate situation, he did not give up. The super-heavy titanium domain caused the tiger-headed whale-tailed monster to pause. His speed was reduced, but this only made it even more furious. Its fists were like raging flames, burning the river. At this moment, boom, it was a frightening sound, but to Lin Feng, it was undoubtedly the sound of nature. It didn't leave. It was the annihilation-level monster that had just released a strong, icy aura. Although he didn't know how strong it was, at the moment, it was his last life-saving straw. Attacked from the front and back, Lin Feng sought survival in a desperate situation. At this moment, he could vaguely see the owner of the icy holy chi. It was a moon-like jellyfish monster, and its aura was extremely cold. The transparent palm leaf fan swayed. The icy holy chi spread out, and the closer he got, the colder he felt in his bones. It was as if his soul could be frozen. What kind of monsters were these? Lin Feng was extremely shocked. On Earth, he had never even seen an annihilation-level monster. But here, in just one river, he saw two annihilation-level monsters. Not only that, even the two-headed dog group that had chased him just now had an annihilation-level monster. Bang! Boom! Ice and fire collided. Lin Feng dragged his seriously injured body and fled. True Dragon Holy Power, the second layer. Like an arrow, he dived down at the fastest speed. Lin Feng heard a furious voice. The battle had already begun. The two annihilation-level monsters were like mortal enemies. They were completely enraged and were about to fight to the death. Lin Feng secretly praised his luck. If the two monsters were at peace, then something bad would happen. It was him. Puff! He spat out another mouthful of blood. Thinking of the domineering fist power, Lin Feng was deeply shocked. How terrifying was this monster with a tiger head and a whale tail? If he were to fight it head-on, he might not even be able to withstand one move. What a deep river. Lin Feng didn't dare to stay. He continued to dive down, and his injuries worsened. He had no way out. The water pressure was too strong, squeezing his internal organs. If he wasn't used to this feeling in the holy crystal array, his seriously injured body would not be able to bear it. Out of danger, Lin Feng wasn't that naive. The density of monsters in the lake and river was terrifying. The only fortunate thing was that the deeper he went, the lower the probability of monsters appearing. But this wasn't absolute, especially now that he hadn't reached the real bottom of the river. He was still far from it. Not to mention, it was easy to enter, but difficult to leave. Woo, 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 woo. A hoarse and unpleasant sound entered his ears. Lin Feng's pupils dilated. His heart beat like a drum. That soul-stirring sound caused an illusion to appear in front of him. His mother, sister, and Ling Er were waving at him. Suddenly, the pain in his body disappeared completely. His whole body was peaceful and quiet. A pleasant sound entered his ears. His body calmly landed in this river, deeply enjoying everything. No! Lin Feng's eyes were about to crack. Chi! Blood spurted out. Lin Feng instantly bit the tip of his tongue, and the illusion disappeared. A giant golden dragon appeared behind him. Fortunately, his talent spirit had reached the 6th stage, and he had the protection of the true dragon's saint power. Hence, his soul had not been taken away. Lin Feng's eyes were red as he looked at the soft, white, giant worm monster in front of him. His mouth opened and closed as a hoarse and unpleasant voice sounded again. Winter Thunder. Lin Feng's 9 nether thunder blade erupted. The winter thunder roared. The sound attack was all-pervasive, resisting the unpleasant sound. Although he had escaped the first time, it didn't mean that he could escape the second and third time. He would rather die in battle than be trapped in an illusion. Lin Feng's fighting spirit erupted. He dragged his seriously injured body and went straight for the soft white monster. He couldn't dodge. He could only fight to the end. The 5th strike, violent thunder shocking the 9 heavens. The 9 nether thunder blade roared. Lin Feng ignored the endless power of thunder and lightning entering his body. Right now, he needed this kind of magnetic pull even more. Only extreme pain in his body could allow him to maintain absolute clarity of mind. Lin Feng's blade fell. 9 blades appeared in a second, but it only made the soft white monster's voice even more shrill. But it wasn't injured. What a terrifying defense. Titanium gray body, 4th stage. His body couldn't take it anymore. Lin Feng's blood-red eyes exploded. He was forced into a desperate situation. He was hysterical and desperate. Chapter 273. The Limit of the Limit. The 2nd stage of the True Dragon Holy Power was released to the extreme. The control of spiritual energy caused his body to multiply crazily. From a 3rd stage, it doubled and quadrupled in an instant. An uncontrollable pain. But compared to the violent power of thunder and lightning, what was it? Even if he was not torn apart by the titanium power, his body would still be destroyed by the power of thunder and lightning. Lin Feng could not care so much at this time. The consequences were not something he could consider now. If he did not kill this white soft monster in front of him, he would not be able to live at all. Boom! Boom! Lin Feng's strength and speed increased explosively. The golden dragon roared. Lin Feng was like a dragon awakening, and his battle strength increased instantly. His talent soul had reached the 6th stage, and his comprehension was even more amazing. The control of the blade was the easiest to break through in the moment of life and death. When the conditions were right, success would follow naturally. The 6th strike, 5 mountains, thunderclap. Lin Feng shouted wildly. His muscles ruptured and his blood vessels protruded. The crazy power of thunder and lightning passed through the 9 nether thunderblade. Lin Feng directly attacked the white soft monster in front of him. His blade intent had advanced to perfection. This time, the white soft monster finally let out a painful sound. A deep cut appeared on its soft body, and white blood flowed out. Squeak! Squeak! The sound of incomparable pain, but it brought out an even more shocking and terrifying soul-stirring sound. But facing the 2nd stage of the True Dragon Holy Power, Lin Feng's will was firm. It was useless. The 7th strike, raging thunder tearing heaven and earth. Lin Feng had already disregarded life and death. In his battle state, he was truly crazy and did not care about his life. The power of the 9 nether thunderblade at this moment was not inferior to the Overlord Xiang Yu in person, especially the monstrous overbearing. It vented the obsession in Lin Feng's heart. Never admit defeat. Even if he died for it, he would fight to the end. Chi! The blade was cut in half, and the power of thunder and lightning roared. Lin Feng forcibly shattered this white soft monster. Even if it was stronger than the tiger-headed whale-tailed monster and the jellyfish-like monster, but sometimes what determined the outcome of a battle was not just strength. It was faith. Buzz. Lin Feng's head was buzzing. He felt as if he was floating in the middle of the river, and his consciousness was sluggish. Clenching his fists tightly, Zhang Xian gritted his teeth so hard that it felt like they were about to shatter. The 4th tier of the titanium gray body was a heavy burden for Lin Feng. The sudden increase in his body strength by 4 times was like pulling up a seedling to help it grow. The increase in strength from the inside out was extremely damaging to his body. However, Lin Feng didn't care. Even if he could endure the 4th level of the titanium gray body, he would not be able to endure the violent lightning energy in his body. Crack! Screech! Lin Feng felt his body being ravaged by the power of lightning. The golden dragon ran through his body, protecting his last bit of consciousness. His spiritual power was constantly repairing the damaged insides of his body, as if it was useless, but it was not a dead end yet. I'm not dead yet. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with stubbornness. Ferocious and terrifying lightning flashed all over his body. The intense pain was enough to kill any expert, but Lin Feng was more tenacious than ordinary people. As long as he still breathes, as long as his consciousness is not extinguished, then there was still a chance. Survive! I must survive! Lin Feng roared hoarsely in his heart. His distorted face and body were severely injured. From the moment he entered the river, he had been fighting nonstop. His body slowly sank. Lin Feng could vaguely feel the arrival of danger. The battle with the white soft-bodied monster would definitely attract other monsters. However, he no longer had any power to resist. Dragging his almost crippled body, Lin Feng continued to sink. A strong whistling sound entered his ears. Flames, ice, and snow. They were different energies, but they were all extremely powerful. He was bitten by the lightning. Lin Feng was about to explode and die. His consciousness was blurred, but he suddenly saw that in the deepest part of the river, there seemed to be a crystal-like palace. It was magnificent. Was it an illusion? Lin Feng did not know. He continued to sink. His spiritual power was almost completely exhausted. Strong water pressure. It could kill him. There were at least 3 monsters around him that were no less than the white soft-bodied monster. Flames, ice, and snow. Lin Feng could no longer distinguish and could not see the appearance of these monsters. Only the bright and beautiful crystal was left in front of him. It was like a paradise falling at the bottom of the river. Hey! Hey! Flames and ice intertwined. Hua! Lin Feng seemed to have passed through a door and arrived outside the crystal palace, but he felt like he had entered the Saint Crystal Array. An invisible shield protected him. Bang! Bang! It was definitely a top-level attack, but it did not even cause the slightest ripple on the shield. The 3 monsters made an extremely angry sound, but they seemed to be extremely afraid of the Crystal Palace and did not even dare to approach it. Ha! Lin Feng laughed in his heart, but his body was numb and collapsed, and he could not laugh even if he wanted to. Unexpectedly, in the end, he could still survive. Although it was only temporary, at least he did not die in this river. After many battles, the 9U Thunderblade in his body had absorbed too much power of thunder and lightning. This power of thunder and lightning was much stronger than that of the Thunder and Lightning Pearl. Even if it was not as strong as the strongest purple thunder, it would not be too far off. It's not over yet. Lin Feng was extremely persistent. As long as there was a bit of power left, he would not give up easily. The sharp pain attacked his heart, but it could not extinguish Lin Feng's tenacity. The second level of the true dragon, Saint Qi, gave him a stronger life force. Lin Feng maintained the 4th level of the titanium grade body, but he had no choice. Because once he dispersed this body that was 5 times stronger than before, the power of thunder and lightning would instantly explode and destroy him completely. How long could he last? Lin Feng did not know, and he would not think about it, because there was no result. This might be a useless effort, but he would still do it. If he did not put in the effort, how could he know if there would be no gains? Fight! Spirit power was constantly repairing his body, and Spirit Qi was healing his external injuries. Although he could not cultivate the Heart Sutra, even ordinary absorption would allow him to recover at an astonishing speed. However, it was still not as destructive as the power of thunder and lightning. Over and over again, if not for Lin Feng's unwillingness to give up, he would have died many times over. His cells were constantly dividing and slowly absorbing. But compared to the enormous power of thunder and lightning, his body's absorption was too forced and too weak. A cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Time slowly passed. The bell of death seemed to be ringing soon. Lin Feng was only left with a stubborn consciousness, but he was still persevering. He did not know how much time had passed, but he looked at the magnificent crystal palace in front of him. The white crystal light was incomparably mysterious and powerful. Even a top-grade extinction stage expert could not cause any ripples on the barrier. Lin Feng had an incomparable desire. He had to survive. He still had many things to do. He had to find his brother, take care of his mother and sister, and Lin Feng shouted in his heart, unwilling to give up. He fought against fate unyieldingly. He worked hard time and time again to change fate. He always believed, as long as he was willing to work hard, he could also surpass destiny. Boom! Chapter 274. Lin Feng was greatly shocked. His body had already reached its limit and was on the verge of destruction. The power of thunder and lightning kept bombarding the fourth layer of the titanium gray body. However, in an instant, a domineering aura roared through his body. It was born from his heart and fell from his body. It was like a seed nourished in the depths of his heart had finally sprouted and grown. Clang! Huh! Lin Feng's eyes widened. Like a peerless thunderbolt, it fell from the sky. It was horrifying. Unlike the speed of lightning, it was as fast as thunder. The thunder and lightning roared violently, as if it could shatter one's soul. The lightning was filled with absolute power, like an invincible saber. Boom! The soul of the earth trembled in shock. It was excitement and joy, like a tired bird returning to its nest. The blue lightning surrounded the soul of the earth like a titanium grade net. Sizzle! Sizzle! The blue lightning flashed and kept absorbing the frenzied power of thunder and lightning in his body. In that instant, Lin Feng felt as if a group of bloodthirsty soldiers had been intimidated. Lin Feng felt his body suddenly become quiet. Only the flickering of the blue lightning dominated this area. Blue lightning holy chi. The blue lightning holy chi absorbed the frenzied power of thunder and lightning in his body. The first layer of the blue lightning holy chi grew rapidly, like the true dragon holy chi. It absorbed 90% and dispersed 10%. The dispersed 10% was so powerful that it turned into the purest energy and poured into the soul of the earth, quickly nourishing it. The astonishing energy was 100 times more than the absorption of the fifth layer of the nine-dragon scripture. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. He could feel the soul of the earth growing and expanding every second. Spiritual chi kept spreading out from the soul of the earth. It flowed into the meridians, cells, skin, and bones of the whole body, and in the depths of his brain. Extreme misfortune and bliss. The fourth layer of the titanium gray body was slowly removed because it was not needed at all. Although there were powerful bombs hidden in his body, there was no threat if they were not detonated. The blue lightning holy chi was like a general, calmly commanding the blue lightning army. Lin Feng smiled weakly. He had no strength and could barely move, but he knew clearly. He had survived. As long as he did not give up, miracles would happen. It was very long. Every second, it felt like a century had passed. When all the lightning power in his body disappeared, Lin Feng felt that the blue lightning Saint Chi was powerful, as if it had eaten its fill, but it was still some distance away from the second level. It did not matter. Lin Feng clearly understood that if the true Dragon Saint power could successfully break through to the second tier, so could the blue lightning Saint Chi. It was only a matter of time. More importantly, he was safe now. He came back to life. Crystal Palace. Lin Feng murmured, looking at the majestic and magnificent Crystal Palace in front of him, which was as beautiful as a fairyland. His heart was moved. A curtain of crystal beads flowed down. Behind the curtain, it was as if someone was playing the zither with a veil draped over their shoulders. The sound of the zither flowed between their fingertips. It was either real or illusory, changing constantly, like a quiet stream dripping from spring, clear and ethereal. Exquisite and translucent, the water around it sparkled, gathering into a gurgling stream that streaked across this beautiful crystal. It was like a dream, but also like reality. White light could be vaguely seen through the crystal bead curtain. It was like an unlocked door calling out to him. This is... Lin Feng's eyes lit up. His gaze fell on the surroundings. It was quiet, except for the ripples on the water. He could not see any monsters. The memory of a few hours ago appeared in his mind. He was chased by several extinction-level monsters and sank into the Crystal Palace's protective shield. Extinction-level attacks hit it, but there was not even a ripple. Lin Feng felt a chill down his spine. He was shocked. What kind of ridiculous defense was this? The St. Crystal Array was probably not even 1/10,000th of it. Power beyond extinction level. Lin Feng found it hard to imagine. Although he knew that legend level was not the limit, there must be power beyond it, including the monster that killed the true martial emperor. It should be an existence of extinction level, but beyond extinction level? It was simply unbelievable. Lin Feng stared at the crystal palace. His heart was in turmoil. Longing, curiosity, nervousness, all kinds of emotions mixed together. He was afraid that it was not just beyond, but far beyond. If it's not a great opportunity, then it's a great danger. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. If there was any monster in this crystal palace, he was afraid that with a wave of its claws, it could turn him into ashes. But now he had no choice. The invisible and transparent shield around him was just like the Saint Crystal Array. It was easy to get in, but hard to get out. Not to mention, even if he could get out, so what? The countless extinction-level monsters in the river alone were enough to kill him thousands of times. Although he was trapped, at least he could keep his life. As long as he was alive, there were endless possibilities. External injuries were easy to heal, but internal injuries were difficult to heal. Just like creating blood, it could not be done overnight. Including the reconstruction of bones and the healing of meridians, it required sufficient time. Even the overloaded talent soul, even the golden dragon, seemed to be dispirited. If he did not have the second level of the true dragon holy power, he would not have been able to hold on for so long. Even if his will was strong enough, his body could not hold on. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. Although he could not get out now, his life was not in danger, and he did not have to worry about natural disasters. Seriously speaking, it was a good place to hide and cultivate. The energy of heaven and earth was very rich. Spirit chi and spiritual power could be restored in a short time. However, he was mentally and physically exhausted and could not use the Heart Sutra, so he could only absorb it naturally. Flaming scale fruit. Lin Feng moved his arm with difficulty and took out the fruit. Looking at the fruit that contained the strong power of fire, he felt helpless and expectant. He did not need the true dragon holy power now. A flash of blue lightning appeared in his palm. In an instant, he tore a gap in the tough skin of the flaming scale fruit. Lin Feng took a bite. One, and then another. It was a waste of God's gift. Indeed, it was a waste to waste a saint treasure spirit fruit that was beyond the heaven treasure level. But Lin Feng did not care about this. Recovering his strength, increasing his strength, and turning it into real power was the right way to go. The rich power of fire merged into his cells. Unlike the power of thunder and lightning, this was a completely free absorption. 5, 10, 15. Swoosh! A blazing force emerged from the depths of his dantian. A ball of blazing flame burned with anger. It was as explosive as a volcanic eruption. His entire body was covered in a fiery red color. His cells were excited, and the power of fire surged out. Lin Feng clenched his fists. His eyes shone brightly. Streams of heat flowed through his body. It was extremely comfortable. Following the blue lightning holy power, the flame burned fiercely. It was a fierce flame. Lin Feng already knew that when the two-headed dog monster's flame entered its body, it was on par with the blue lightning holy power. Compared to the flame in the wheel passage of the Shiva sect's holy temple, it was one level stronger. The red light triggered the power, and the soul of the earth was reflected in a fiery red color. The red fire holy power was formed. Chapter 275. Originally, Lin Feng would have been satisfied with just one of them. However, it was better to have more power. Whether it was cultivation or battle, it would complement each other. Lightning and flames wrapped around the soul of the earth like a fully armed soldier. Its combat power was completely different from before. The Scarlet Fire Holy Chi and the Blue Lightning Holy Chi were both types of Holy Chi. Just like the True Dragon Holy Power strengthened the talent soul, the two types of Holy Chi not only strengthened the soul of the earth, but also tempered Lin Feng's body. After enduring the fourth level of the titanium gray body, Lin Feng could completely adapt. However, the substantial improvement of his body was shocking. Now, his body alone had probably reached the peak of the legend rank. It was slightly beyond. If I use the third level of the titanium gray body, no, the fourth level, how powerful would it be? Lin Feng's eyes were bright. If he were to deal with the two-headed dog monster for the first time, he would not need to spend any effort. He could directly kill it in a head-on battle. 16 flaming scale fruits. Lin Feng's body had recovered by half. Although his combat power was still poor, at least his movement was not a big problem. There were a total of 16 flaming scale fruits of different sizes, but they contained the same energy. Lin Feng knew that this was the flame power of the volcano group. Although the essence of the flaming scale fruits had been completely absorbed, but even if there was only a layer of skin left, it was still a treasure. Level defense. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Ordinary holy treasures only had level defense, like the golden cloth. Of course, the golden cloth was somewhat similar to Geno armor. It relied more on the golden saint's small universe to activate. The stronger the small universe, the stronger the defense of the golden cloth. At most, it could even exceed level. The skin of the flaming scale fruits seemed inconspicuous, but 16 of them were enough to make a level battlesuit. Even 2 level defensive vests. It was enough to withstand the attacks of the legend rank. It could also weaken the attacks of a legend rank and reach the level of a beginner holy treasure. After this battle, Lin Feng knew the importance of a defensive holy treasure. Sometimes it was worth a life. The 5th level of the Ruthless Spectrum was successfully used. The energy of heaven and earth was indeed rich. It did not take long for the true dragon holy power to recover. Lin Feng was relieved. It was clear that the dispirited golden dragon had merely exhausted all of its strength. There were no aftereffects. The tyrannical true dragon saint power combined both attack and defense into one. It was very important. Although I have both the Blue Lightning Saint Chi and the Crimson Fire Saint Chi, they're still not as powerful as the True Dragon Saint Force. Maybe it's because of the level of the Holy Power and Holy Chi, or maybe it's a matter of levels. Lin Feng pondered. For example, Senior Xiangyu's Purple Thunder Saint Chi was much stronger than ordinary Thunder Saint Chi. His Crimson Fire Saint Chi was also stronger than Shiva Sex Flames. Of course, it's more likely that multiplicity. The second level is much stronger than the first. Lin Feng knew this because he had cultivated the true dragon holy power before. The second level absorbed 10 times more true dragon saint power than the first level. It was like a battle between 2 experts of the same level, one of whom was 10 times stronger. The advantage was obvious. However, after all, with the assistance of 2 types of holy chi, although it's not as good as the second level of true dragon saint power, the cultivation speed of the soul of the earth will definitely be greatly increased. Lin Feng's eyes glowed. With anticipation in his heart, he instantly activated the 5th level of the 9 Dragon Scripture. Now his mind's breadth had exceeded 55%. With the 2 holy chi tempering his body, it had increased again. Once the soul of the earth broke through the 6th level, he would become a legend-class expert. Compared to the talent soul, his use of the soul of the earth. This was his true combat strength. Ancient Huaxia. Marshal, it's Dean 1 from the Scientific Research Institute. It's an emergency. Connect him. Zhou Jingyi looked up, his eyes deep. In a split second, a micro-video projection flashed. It was a white-haired old man with a scholarly aura. He was Dean 1 from the Scientific Research Institute, 1MO. However, he, who had always been calm and composed, revealed a grave expression this time. Jingyi, we're in trouble this time. This short sentence caused Zhou Jingyi's back to straighten up. There's something strange happening in the Pacific Ocean. 1MO said seriously, we're monitoring the surface of the ocean. There are hundreds of Annihilation-class auras. The Annihilation-class monsters that have been living in the deep sea are appearing one after another. They appeared one after another, causing a great commotion. Zhou Jingyi sighed. Actually, I guessed that this day would come. I just didn't expect it to come so soon. Oh, 1MO was slightly stunned. Zhou Jingyi said, animals have a stronger ability to sense danger than humans. Monsters have a stronger sense of danger. Zhou Jingyi's eyes flickered. Originally, I still had some hope for Alliance leader Lin Shang's words. But now it's almost certain. The real great extinction disaster is coming. I just didn't expect them to sense it so soon. Zhou Jingyi shook his head. Before the first wave subsided, another wave came. "Marshal, have you forgotten about the Annihilation-class monster in the Pacific Ocean?" When Mo said, "It has a stronger sense than the Annihilation-class monster. It's not surprising that it can sense it in advance." Zhou Jingyi sighed. Lin Feng's figure appeared in his mind, but he shook his head. "Unfortunately, there's no time." Zhou Jingyi sighed. If there were another 2 years, or even 1 year, Lin Feng might be able to fight against the Annihilation-class monster. But now, he's still not a true martial emperor. It's impossible for him to fight against the Annihilation-class monster. When Mo's expression was serious. "The monster world follows the law of the jungle. I believe they'll soon have the Annihilation-class monster as their leader. The great extinction disaster will only make them crazier. They'll attack the hinterland. Our country will be the first to suffer. As for the other countries, it's only a matter of time before they're swept up." Zhou Jingyi felt helpless. Although he had expected this day to come, when it really came, his heart was still in chaos. Humans, before the great extinction disaster, will be wiped out by the claws of these monsters first, when Mo muttered to himself. "No, there's still time." Zhou Jingyi nodded. The Mars plan is 80% complete. Fortunately, Lin Feng suggested that ancient Huaxia should be the first to start interstellar migration. In 3 days, we'll be able to move close to 10,000 Huaxia elites. In 10 days, we'll be able to move 100,000 Huaxia descendants. These are all excellent seeds of Huaxia. Every one of them is a young warrior. Even if Earth is destroyed, they'll be able to grow strong and continue the bloodline of Huaxia. They'll be the seeds of humanity. Zhou Jingyi's eyes were bright. He let go. Mo nodded and revealed a relieved smile. "You did well. We have to thank him for all this." Zhou Jingyi sighed with relief. Unfortunately, time does not wait for man. If there's another year or 2, I believe that Lin Feng will definitely be able to stand at the peak of the world and surpass Lord True Martial Emperor. Even just by himself, he will be able to quell the chaos of the sea beasts. Unfortunately, when Mo sighed. Chapter 276. Blue Thunder Holy Chi, 5 times increase. Red Fire Holy Chi, 5 times increase as well. Lin Feng quickly came to a conclusion about the 5th level of the 9-Dragon Scripture. This was the most basic increase for the soul of the earth. Any type of Heart Sutra could increase it, whether it was the 9-Dragon Scripture, the Lesser Phaseless Method, or even the Infinite Sea of Chi. The True Dragon Holy Power was unique for increasing the Heart Sutra. It was only effective for the 9-Dragon Scripture. Sure enough, the strength of the 2 Holy Chi is very similar, Lin Feng thought. It was impossible to distinguish the subtle differences. This was the increase of the Holy Chi's strength, just like how the True Dragon Holy Power increased the Talent Soul. The difference was that at the first level, the Blue Thunder Holy Chi and Red Fire Holy Chi could barely compare to the True Dragon Holy Power. 5 times, and 10 times seemed to be only 1-time difference. But now it was only the first level. There's still the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th level. The gap would only widen. The difference between them was far greater than what could be seen with the naked eye. But in terms of cultivation, the 2 Holy Chi can increase the speed of cultivation by 10 times. With the True Dragon Holy Power at the 2nd level, it's already half the speed of the Talent Soul. Lin Feng was in a good mood. Finally, after a series of disasters, there was a new lease of life. 2 Holy Chi added to his body. Senior Xiangyu, you must not have thought of this. Lin Feng smiled. He thought of how Senior Xiangyu tried to get him Holy Chi in the Saint Crystal Formation. In the end, he awakened the True Dragon Holy Power and did not even get a single Holy Chi. Fire aptitude is poor, but luck is not bad. Lin Feng was very satisfied. 16 flame scale fruits in his stomach had nothing to do with aptitude. Even his sister Yu could get fire Holy Chi. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He thought of the 100,000 flame scale fruits not far from the river of ice and fire. They were waiting for him to pick them. If each level is 10 times 160 fruits, my red fire Holy Chi will reach the 2nd level. 1,600 fruits, the third level of red fire holy qi. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Suddenly, he smiled helplessly. It looked like a beautiful scene, but it was still far away. He didn't know when he would be able to escape. Other than cultivating and recovering, there was nothing else he could do. There were no spirits like Senior Xiangyu here, other than this beautiful crystal palace. Go in? Lin Feng naturally wouldn't be so reckless. What do you think? Everyone knew how extraordinary the crystal palace was. Casually entering the crystal palace would only result in death. Since he was already here, he might as well make the best of it. There were dangers everywhere in the wildlands, so wouldn't it be perfect for him to cultivate in peace and quiet? It wouldn't be too late for him to enter after he had raised his strength to a certain level. Hiss hiss. Lin Feng was very satisfied with the abundant heaven and earth energy surging into his body. Right now, his cultivation speed was much faster than when he was cultivating in the Black Rock Mountain Cave. The cultivation speed of the 5th stage of the 9-Dragon Scripture was much faster than that of the 5th stage of the Heartless Spectrum. After obtaining the Holy Qi, the soul of the Earth's cultivation speed would greatly increase. Sizzle. It was as if the true dragon holy power had awakened. The dragon's mouth was wide open. The blue lightning Saint Qi and the red fire Saint Qi were both shining brightly. They each absorbed the energy of heaven and earth to strengthen themselves. At this moment, only then could he truly see the level of aptitude. The blue lightning Saint Qi absorbed 80% of the true dragon holy power. The red fire Saint Qi absorbed 40% of the true dragon holy power. Aptitude, twice the difference. No, it's because of the cultivation environment. Lin Feng was very clear. This place was close to the volcanoes and the land of ice and snow outside. Therefore, the river of ice and fire was full of monsters that obtained these two types of holy qi. It was the same for himself. There were various types of energy in the heaven and earth energy. Here, the red fire energy was obviously more than the blue lightning energy. As for the true dragon holy power, it was probably much rarer than the blue lightning energy. For hours, at most 4 hours, my soul of the earth will be able to reach the 6th stage. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. He wasn't far from the real legend level. The soul of the earth had continuously tempered his body with 2 streams of holy qi and improved a lot. Coupled with the huge amount of thunder and lightning power in his body, the soul of the earth's 5th stage had exceeded 50%. The rest, with the addition of 2 streams of holy qi, broke through naturally. 60%, 70%. The soul of the earth was constantly expanding and strengthening. Correspondingly, the undeveloped regions of his mind expanse were awakening bit by bit. From 57% to 58%, he was slowly approaching 59%. Every second, he could feel an absolute increase in his strength. Lin Feng's heart stirred. He was getting closer and closer to the legend level. The crystal palace in front of him seemed to be calling him. That kind of call was familiar. Lin Feng's heart tightened as he quickly cultivated. However, the question in his heart suddenly surfaced. Where was this place? Why did it have such tyrannical heaven and earth energy? Natural disasters. Monsters wreaked havoc. He felt that he was only at the tip of the iceberg. Even though he was in such an ordinary river, it was already so shocking. If he were to compare it to Earth, if there was an ocean in this barren land, then the monsters in the ocean, how terrifying would they be? Thinking of this, Lin Feng felt a great shock. He smiled bitterly. Just this crystal palace in front of him had an inestimable amount of energy. The surrounding protective shield was 10,000 times stronger than the holy crystal array. Not to mention the current him. Even if his strength increased to the peak of the legend level, or even beyond that, it would be difficult for him to leave this place. I'll take one step at a time. Lin Feng thought lightly. The road was paved by people. There would always be a way. But am I not in the Ares Palace? I was defeated by Leon. What happened in the end? Why did I? Another question mark appeared in his mind. But this time, before he could think of anything, Lin Feng suddenly felt his body in a trance. The entire space shattered like glass. It was like an illusory world, but also like a dream. Hua! The white light in front of him shone brightly. Lin Feng felt his body seem to be distorted. An abnormally huge force suddenly descended, and his consciousness was suddenly empty. Ha! He disappeared outside the Crystal Palace. Ares' palace. Swoosh! Lin Feng's figure appeared. As if he was teleported from a different dimension, Lin Feng looked around in a daze. What happened? Illusory world? Or was it a dream? Pa! Lin Feng clenched his fist fiercely, and a powerful force surged out. It was not a dream. It was real power. Light flashed in his eyes. Lin Feng clearly saw in his body. Outside the spirit of the earth, there was a Titan-grade heavenly net wrapped around the blue lightning holy aura and a red flame burning fiercely. The existence of the two holy auras. In his sea of consciousness, the golden dragon seemed to have grown up, circling and guarding the sixth stage of the talent of the soul. Everything could not be any more real. Welcome back. A clear voice sounded, and a figure walked over from afar. Long purple hair, a handsome face, white goat horns that seemed to be made of pure gold, shining brightly. Wasn't height, was the Ares gold saint Leon. Chapter 277. Ares Temple. This place was undoubtedly the Ares Temple. Lin Feng looked around. It was a sea of stars, vast and boundless. It was as though there was a layer of transparent glass under his feet. Floating in the air, meteorites and shooting stars streaked past. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, looking straight at the golden figure in front of him. Their eyes met. Oh! Lion's eyes flashed with surprise. Suddenly, Reed, Lion's right index finger tapped his forehead. A huge wave of spirit power exploded out. Lin Feng's expression was calm. It was as though he could see the spirit power surging, the golden dragon in his sea of consciousness roaring, even though his spirit talent had just entered the sixth stage. But Lin Feng could clearly feel that his spirit was no longer inferior to Lion's. In front of him, the crystal wall was faintly visible, but it no longer had that suffocating pressure. It was just like an ordinary alloy wall. Lin Feng held the Nine Serenities Thunderblade in his hand. His heart moved, as though he could feel the pulse of the Nine Serenities Thunderblade. It was unusually intimate. It was the power of lightning. Like a bridge, it connected him and the Nine Serenities Thunderblade together. His body had not recovered. Lin Feng knew that he had recovered about 30% to 50% of his strength. His broken body needed time to recover. It could not be done overnight. However, this 30% to 50% of his strength was comparable to his previous self. It was much stronger, especially his saber. Xiao! 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 Countless shooting stars attacked. Lin Feng did not dodge. He did not even use his titanium gray body. Sky-spinning thunder. It was a simple move, but it caused the blue lightning Saint Chi to rumble. Hua! Lion's eyes lit up, the Aries constellation star seal behind him shining even brighter. Endless rays of light and meteors fell like resplendent crystal lamps. The crystal walls were blooming with light. In an instant, ripples appeared under Lin Feng's feet. The crystal wall formed a super heavy titanium binding. Break! Lin Feng's spirit power surged out. With the second stage of the true dragon Saint Chi, it was not inferior to Lion. Rumble! The crystal shattered. Along with the crystal lamps, Lin Feng suddenly took a step forward. Lin Feng's speed was extremely fast. He was already at the fifth stage of the heroic spirit. After being tempered by 2 streams of holy chi, Lin Feng's body was as strong as a top-notch titled warrior. Speed. Spring thunderstorm. Lin Feng's saber was even faster. The power of the Nine Serenities Thunderblade was extraordinary. Just as Xiangyu had said, the 9 purple lightning strikes with the purple lightning Saint Chi was the most powerful blade technique. Although Lin Feng did not have the purple lightning holy chi, the blue lightning holy chi could still unleash a portion of the purple lightning 9 strikes power. A super heaven tier saber move. This is the real 9 Serenities Thunderblade. Boom! Lin Feng's first attack was enough to shatter the crystal wall. However, there was a smile in Leon's eyes. Starlight extinction. Boundless light instantly shone. Lin Feng was already prepared. Previously, he was heavily injured by this move. Time and space seemed to be distorted. The powerful spiritual force and attack power were perfectly combined. There was no place to dodge such a large area attack. Aries Constellation's ability was quite strong. Thunder Hell. Lin Feng released his third attack. His eyes lit up. His understanding of lightning became clearer. The perfect saber technique was not the limit. As the saber technique realm increased, the power would increase. As the user's strength increased, the saber technique would also increase. Similarly, the deeper the understanding of the saber technique, the power would also increase. There was no limit to everything in the world. Blue Lightning, Saint Chi. Lin Feng felt the consumption of the Saint Chi in his body. Every attack of the purple lightning saber technique. They all contained the lightning Saint Chi. Each attack was stronger than the previous one. The consumption of the blue lightning Saint Chi from the third attack was more than twice that of the first attack. At this moment, Lin Feng finally understood what Xiangyu meant. This was the real 9 purple lightning strikes. Boom! It was the same battle. Just a day and 24 hours later, the results were completely different. Leon spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. The light on his forehead dimmed. In a head-on clash, he had been completely defeated by Lin Feng. Lin Feng was not only strong in the 9 Serenity Lightning Saber and Saber techniques. With the second level of the True Dragon Saint Chi and the Spiritual Defense, he might be able to fight. But with both of them combined, he did not have any chance of winning. However, what Leon did not know was that the current Lin Feng was far more than that. If his body was in perfect condition, just based on pure fighting power, he could easily defeat him. You lost. Lin Feng did not pursue, because he had many questions in his heart. Leon did not have any killing intent towards him. If he wanted to kill him, he would have died long ago. No. Leon smiled. There was a deeper meaning in his smile. Lin Feng was still in a daze. Suddenly, the roar of a lion resounded in the starry sky. Lin Feng's eyes widened, as if it had come from the distant starry sky. The giant lion flashed with golden light and bared its fangs. A ferocious flame of courage broke through the starry sky. Power. The purest and fiercest power. Good. Lin Feng was not surprised. Instead, he smiled. The stronger the opponent, the more challenging it was. In the wilderness, he had been suppressed for a long time. Although his body had not recovered, his Saint Chi was at its peak. Lin Feng did not use his titanium gray body. He had absolute confidence in his 9 Serenity Lightning Saber. The 6th attack, 5 Thunderous Mountains. Chi. The blue lightning Saint Chi exploded, causing the 9 Serenity Lightning Saber to flash with blue light. It was far from the limit. Swoosh! Leon's eyes lit up. Escarder obtained the essence of the Leo small universe. He also obtained the power of burial in the ancient divine dominion. He is stronger than me. And Lin Feng, Leon was startled. What an amazing lightning Saint Chi. Leon's heart trembled. In an instant, boom, the heavenly lightning stirred the earth fire. The 2 strong people clashed in the sky. His power is so special. Lin Feng was shocked. His eyes were shining. The opponent's power contained a special ability. It was similar to Saint Chi, but different. It was different from Leon's small universe. The Gold Saint's fist was fast and fierce. It was full of explosive power. Light and lightning. Lin Feng knew. The opponent's lightning power was not obtained from Saint Chi. It was from the small universe. This was the specialty of the saints. It was like the 9 Serenity Lightning Saber. The Gold Saint with the small universe of light and lightning was 100% the Gold Saint of Leo constellation. Escarder. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. With one exchange, he knew that the opponent was stronger. He was even stronger than Leon, ranked 4th in the world. It was not an empty title. Again, Lin Feng had always been a battle-hungry person. He had not fought to his heart's content with Leon. The Escarder in front of him made his blood boil. But looking at the figure that slowly appeared in front of him, dressed in the Leo constellation gold saint robe, with an awe-inspiring and domineering aura, Lin Feng was suddenly startled. His gaze kept changing, his heart thumped, and his body could not stop trembling. No, impossible. Chapter 278. They were scattered all over the place. His vision gradually became clear. The resolute face from afar slowly appeared. Lin Feng looked at it in shock. He couldn't move anymore, as if his acupuncture points were pressed. 3 years. It had been 3 years since he last saw this face. It was a memory that was deeply imprinted in his bones. "Brother," Lin Feng muttered softly. 2 streams of tears flowed down his cheeks. An indescribable emotion flowed in his heart. His trembling heart was strangely calm for some reason. Instantly, his heart thumped wildly. He watched Iscarder take off his golden helmet, revealing his short black hair. He looked valiant and heroic. His pitch-black eyes revealed a gratified expression. "Often, you have grown up." Lin Zhan's voice was slightly choked, but his face revealed a smile. They were reunited after a long separation. To Lin Feng, Lin Zhan was irreplaceable in his life. His elder brother was like a father. He didn't have a father since he was young. It was his elder brother who taught him martial arts and brought him to the commoner's district to sharpen his heart. It was his elder brother who nurtured him to become a true martial artist. It could be said that without his elder brother, he wouldn't be who he was now. "Brother, what exactly happened? How did you become a Leo constellation gold saint?" And Lin Feng was very curious. "It's a long story." Lin Zhan's eyes flickered. He revealed a happy smile and shook his head helplessly. "I was young and impetuous. I was too arrogant back then. If it wasn't for Lord Zhenwu who saved me, I might have lost my life." "Senior Zhenwu?" Lin Feng was slightly stunned. Lin Zhan nodded. He looked grateful. "It was him who saved me. It was like this." He told Lin Zhan everything. Lin Feng listened. He had mixed feelings. Back then, his elder brother, who had just entered the Savage grade, was much stronger than other Savage grade martial artists of the same level. His hatred for Dragon Killing Island was deeply rooted. He used his military status to take revenge on Dragon Killing Island. However, he often walked by the river. How could he not get his shoes wet? In the end, he was captured. It was no wonder his elder brother was captured. 19 years ago, his father was killed. His mother escaped with his elder brother. Their vitality was greatly damaged, and their family was shattered. As long as there was a man with courage, it would be impossible for him to forget this unforgettable hatred when he grew up. Although he hadn't personally experienced it, he could completely understand his big brother's state of mind at that time. If it was him, he would absolutely be unable to endure it. "I thought there was no chance of survival this time. I didn't expect that. Lord True Martial Emperor knows about this," Lin Zhan said. "The Ji family and the Z family are irreconcilable enemies. However, Lord Zhenwu barged into the Dragon Killing Island and saved me from the Island Lord." Lin Zhan nodded. "He's a true hero who is kind and righteous. His magnanimity is worthy of respect and admiration." Speaking of this, Lin Zhan couldn't help but close his eyes. Like he was thinking about something sad, 2 streams of tears flowed down his face. Lin Feng pursed his lips, but did not interrupt. He knew that his big brother must have known about the death of the true martial emperor. Although not many people knew about this, Sharjah and the true martial emperor were friends. "Indeed, very admirable," Lin Feng said softly. As for the true martial emperor, he also admired this great hero of ancient Huaxia. Without him, there wouldn't be the current ancient Huaxia. After that, Lord Zhenwu sent me here and entrusted me to teacher Sharjah. Lin Zhan's eyes were filled with nostalgia. Although the cultivation speed of Jin warriors is fast in the early stages, after they reach the savage level, their cultivation speed can't be compared to that of ancient martial artists. Especially the high-grade spiritual force liquid, they are all controlled by Country M. Lin Feng nodded. This was the cunning part of Country M. Basically, the cultivation speed of Jin warriors below the savage level was much faster than that of ancient martial artists. For example, they could obtain extremely powerful combat power in the shortest amount of time. After they reached the savage level, their cultivation speed couldn't be compared to that of ancient martial artists who cultivated steadily. However, this couldn't be said. This was because most ancient martial artists couldn't reach the savage level. In comparison, Jin warriors generally had higher achievements and had an easier time cultivating. The reason why they could exist and grow stronger was because they had their advantages. Sometimes, everything is fated. Lin Zhan sighed softly. Coincidentally, not long after I came to ancient Greece, the previous Leo Gold Saint, Escas, died. Lin Zhan said softly, to become a reserve Leo Gold Saint, one must first be recognized by the Zeus Temple. Secondly, one must be above the savage level. I didn't have much hope at first, but fortunately, I succeeded. After that, I cultivated with the other reserve Leo Gold Saints. We were selected and cultivated again. One by one, we were eliminated. In the end, I survived. Lin Zhan's voice was filled with vicissitudes. It felt like he had experienced a lot. Lin Feng savored the last sentence carefully and said softly, "Are they all dead?" Lin Zhan smiled but didn't answer. His smile was very bitter. Life and death selection. Just like the gladiators in ancient times, only the strongest were worthy of wearing the golden sacred garment. Lin Feng's heart trembled. That was in the Lion King's secret realm. Lin Zhan's eyes sparkled. Every gold saint has to go through the secret realm and compete with the other reserve gold saints. The one who survives in the end can become a gold saint and control the temple. I stayed in the Lion King's secret realm for almost 2 years. After that, I was lucky enough to break through the Sea King level. Lin Zhan smiled and said, "That's why I stayed until the end. After that, I entered the ancient divine domain like you often." Lin Zhan's eyes were burning. That was the real God's domain. Although I almost died there, I was lucky enough to raise my strength to the intermediate title level and obtain the burial combat power. Ancient divine domain. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He remembered it in his heart. After that, I went into seclusion to integrate what I learned in the Lion King's secret realm and the ancient divine domain into my true combat power, Lin Zhan said. Lin Feng smiled helplessly. In order to find his brother, he had turned the entire ancient Huaxiao upside down. He didn't expect his brother to be in ancient Greece. "Brother, why didn't you come and look for us?" Lin Feng asked. Lin Zhan said, "Actually, after I returned from the ancient divine domain, I already had this plan." After hesitating for a while, Lin Zhan said softly, "Originally, I wanted to stabilize my strength before returning to ancient Huaxia to kill the dragon-killing island lord to avenge my father." "Who knew?" Lin Zhan looked over. "My younger brother is one step ahead of me." Not only that, Lin Zhan patted Lin Feng's shoulder happily. "After returning from the ancient divine domain, you have surpassed your father. Now, even my brother is no match for you." Lin Feng smiled. The doubts in his heart were finally resolved. However, the happiest thing was that his brother was safe and sound. This was the best news. "All right, brother, what exactly is the ancient divine domain?" Lin Feng suddenly asked curiously. "And just now, what exactly happened in the Ares temple?" Lin Zhan smiled and said, "Let teacher and Pope tell you about this." Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He looked over. Not far away, Leon and Sharjah had already appeared. Chapter 279. Teacher Pope? Lin Feng's gaze landed on Sharjah. He had golden hair and an extremely handsome face. After not seeing him for a long time, he was still as handsome as before. Previously, his brother had mentioned that Senior True Martial Emperor had entrusted him to Sharjah. His brother called Sharjah teacher. Lin Feng looked at Leon in a daze. He had long purple hair. At this moment, he didn't have the tyrannical aura he had during battle. Instead, he gave off a refreshing feeling. He was very calm, just like a docile white sheep. "Pope!" Lin Feng exclaimed. Leon smiled faintly. "Senior Sharjah." Lin Feng bowed. "Senior Leon." The two seniors treated him like how they treated Lin Zhan. They were both full of kindness and were worthy of respect. Although he didn't know what had happened, entering the ancient divine realm was definitely a rare opportunity. His brother's strength had increased tremendously after entering, and he had obtained the ability to bury the battle power. As for him, needless to say, "How do you feel?" Sharjah asked with a smile. "Reborn." Lin Feng nodded. His strength could be said to have undergone an earth-shattering change. Although the trip to the ancient divine realm was only a short day, it was more than a year here. Comparable to me and S. Carter working together. Leon looked over and smiled. Don't think that I'm old and ignorant. Yesterday, when you fought with me, you used the second level of the titanium gray body. With your current battle power and your physique doubled, your body's strength is comparable to that of a nuclear bomb commander. A body that surpasses the legend rank. Lin Zhan praised. Lin Feng smiled. Indeed, in terms of physique, he was indeed the strongest among the human experts. If the fourth level of the titanium gray body were to be fully unleashed, it would be terrifying. However, and that was only among the human experts. I'm still far from the sickle demon. Lin Feng shook his head. In that battle, he had witnessed the strength of the sickle demon and Sharjah. It was a battle that surpassed the legend rank. Even if the sickle demon was heavily injured, his strength was still terrifying. He could fight and leave whenever he wanted. No one could stop him. He is a demon lord. Of course he is strong, Leon said. In his normal state, even if there were 12 gold saints with Sharjah's strength, they wouldn't be enough to kill him. Demon lord? Lin Feng was slightly doubtful. He's not from Earth, Leon said. Lin Feng was startled. What did he mean? Leon nodded. Have you heard of the Nemo planet? Lin Feng shook his head. The Earth where we are. He's a member of the solar system. Leon looked calm. And this is only one in a trillion in the Milky Way. In the Milky Way, there are 100 billion to 400 billion stars, and half of them have companions. Companion star? Lin Feng made a mental note. Just like us humans, stars have companions. Leon smiled and said, 2 stars, one bright and one dark, are the most common. Not only in the Milky Way, half of the stars in the entire universe have the other half, and the remaining half of the stars have several companion stars. According to us humans, you can think of it as having many wives. The least. Instead, it's a lonely star, just like a lonely old man like me. Lin Feng smiled. Although he was the Pope and an elder, Leon gave him the feeling that he was very approachable. The companion star of the Sun is the Nemo planet, a planet outside the solar system, 1 light year away from Earth. It's a failed star with a crazy atmosphere. The temperature difference is huge. Moreover, it is a cursed and sealed planet. Outside the orbit of Pluto, there's a dwarf planet called Sedna. Leon said, this dwarf planet is moving around the Sun in a rare orbit with a very large eccentricity. Its perihelion and aphelion are about 76 astronomical units and 975 astronomical units, respectively. The reason why it's in the shape of a pendulum is that it exists between the Sun and the Nemo planet. It's in a dilemma. Lin Feng was deep in thought. In his mind, he could vaguely see that picture. Not only that, Leon's eyes flashed. In fact, the reason why there were 6 mass extinctions on Earth is inseparable from the Nemo planet. The extinction of dinosaurs 65 million years ago. The mass extinction of humans 100 years ago was all because of the Nemo planet. When the Nemo planet passed near the Oort cloud, due to gravity, it perturbed the Oort cloud in a certain way, thus ejecting some long-period comets from the Oort cloud. It caused a comet shower that bombarded Earth. Thus, it caused a mass extinction. Lin Feng was shocked. Leon's words were too shocking. So, Senior, you mean there's a strong person on the Nemo planet who has been spying on Earth? Lin Feng's soul of talent was already at the 6th stage. The development of his mind expanse allowed him to react faster than ordinary people. The sickle demon came from the Nemo planet? Leon nodded. You can say so. Lin Feng was puzzled. Isn't the Nemo planet a star? Why would there be living beings? Leon smiled. Who said that a star can't have living beings? Don't use a narrow theory to understand the vastness of the universe. Life has infinite possibilities. Leon's eyes shone. The surface temperature of the Sun is only 5,500 degrees Celsius. Even you and I can withstand it. Even if the center is 10 million degrees Celsius, there are powerful life forms in the universe that can withstand it. There are even some life forms that rely on fire energy to survive. The god of fire, Hephaestus, can absorb fire to strengthen his body. The more powerful ones, such as Zeus, can destroy the sun with a casual strike of lightning. The universe is much bigger than we imagine. Lin Feng was engrossed in the conversation. It was an eye-opener. In terms of experience and knowledge, he could not compare to the Pope of Lion before him. It was rumored that in the Olympia's Zeus temple, only the successive popes could enter the Zeus temple guarded by the 12 golden palaces. There were all sorts of precious and ancient books in there. Moreover, the Nemo planet isn't a star. Leon's tone changed. It's just like a star, but it's not massive enough to form a core and ignite a fusion reaction. It's an existence between a planet and a star. A brown dwarf. Lin Feng was enlightened. Although he was a bit confused, at least he could confirm a few things. First, the sickle demon came from the Nemo planet. Second, there were living beings on the Nemo planet. Third, the mass extinction was related to the Nemo planet. Leon changed the topic and asked, "What do you think of the ancient divine realm?" Lin Feng was slightly startled and then answered, "It's a terrible place, but the energy of heaven and earth is unusually strong." "So, do you understand why the demons are so powerful?" Leon smiled. Lin Feng was startled. "Speaking of which, we're quite lucky," Leon said. "The Demon Lord is at most a second-rate character in the demon clan. If it's a demon king, then the earth will really be doomsday." "The Demon Lord is a second-rate demon?" Lin Feng was stunned. Chapter 280. The ancient divine realm I went to was Nemo. Lin Feng was confused. Leon shook his head. "Far from it. I mean, Nemo is far from it," Leon said. "Although Nemo has a bad climate and environment, it's still close to a star. It can't emit light or heat, but it's much better than a normal planet. For example, Earth is as far away from the sun as the horizon. It's very difficult to get solar St. Chi. But what if you stand on the sun? As long as your body can withstand it, you can get solar St. Chi instantly." Lin Feng nodded. The energy of heaven and earth was the key. For example, on Earth, when spiritual energy was abundant, Sea King level and even legend level powerhouses were born in large numbers during the Three Kingdoms period. After the Wuxia era, spiritual energy was thin, and it was difficult to even produce a Sea King level powerhouse. Savage level powerhouses were already the top. After that, it entered the technological era. Spiritual energy was exhausted, and even breaking through the critical line was an extravagant hope. "The key is the energy of the universe," Leon said. "The energy of the universe?" Lin Feng thought for a while and realized. The ancient relics and pyramids are different because of the energy of the universe? Leon nodded. The energy of the universe has a clear classification. The first level of the universe is planetary energy. It's the energy that dominates the entire world. The civilization built on it is the master of the energy of the planet. It's the most common planetary civilization. Earth is now a planetary civilization. According to the level of the universe, Earth is now 09. Lin Feng was dazed. Not even 1. Leon nodded. In a planetary civilization, the standard of 1. 0 is the emergence of advanced humans, which means that the brain region reaches 70% and the 3 souls are opened. In fact, 0. 1 is 0. 5. Planets with 0. 9 are the most common. They represent the 3 levels of humans. Low-level humans, ordinary humans, and middle-level humans. What's the highest level of a planetary civilization? Lin Feng asked curiously. 19? No. Leon shook his head. Planets are the most basic structure of the universe. For example, some wandering planets have a higher level of civilization than a galactic civilization or a black hole civilization. The difference between each level of civilization is far greater than what is shown by the numbers. It's the most fundamental difference in the energy of the universe. The second level of cosmic energy is the energy of stars. This civilization can collect the energy of the entire stellar system. Interstellar travel and moving the entire planetary cluster is a piece of cake for a stellar civilization. Normal natural disasters can hardly destroy a stellar civilization. The standard of a stellar civilization is 0, which means that a perfect human is born with a brain region of 100%. In fact, some of the 7 sacred relics of Earth are products of stellar civilizations, like the Shiva Temple, like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Lin Feng nodded. In his heart, he vaguely understood. Leon continued, 3rd level cosmic energy. For example, in our Milky Way, galactic civilizations can use the energy of the Milky Way system for their own use. Galactic core collection rings, artificial celestial bodies, even wormholes and intergalactic spaceships. And the level 4 black hole energy. Lin Feng listened with great interest. Just as Leon had said, the universe was far bigger and more majestic than he had imagined. Life was so insignificant. So, I'm just an average human. Lin Feng smiled. He wasn't afraid at all. He didn't mind. Instead, he was full of longing and challenge. He wanted to see the truly boundless universe, see the miracle of life, and see where the end was. Only then would his trip to this world be worth it. By the way, Senior, what's the level of Nemo's space civilization? Lin Feng asked suddenly. Leon shook his head. It's not recorded in the records of the temple, but from the notes of the previous pope. Nemo's civilization level is above 5, but not 3. 0, that's high. Lin Feng was shocked. No wonder Leon said the Demon Lord was only a second-rate character. A perfect human with a brain region of 100% was definitely much stronger than the Demon Lord. It was even stronger than the Demon Lord, and this was only the standard of a stellar civilization. Above 5, what did that mean? Lin Feng smiled bitterly. That's not right. Lin Feng suddenly realized something and looked at Leon. Like what Senior said, stellar civilizations are already capable of interstellar travel. If Nemo's hatred for Earth is as deep as the ocean, why would they use the meteorite disaster to conquer it? Wouldn't it be easier to conquer it with absolute force? Leon's eyes were bright. That's why I said, it's a cursed planet. This is related to a secret of Earth. I don't know the details, but according to the previous Pope's speculation, if Nemo's space civilization level reaches 3, 0, and becomes a real galactic civilization, the curse will be lifted. At that time, Earth will suffer a calamity. Deep hatred. Lin Feng didn't doubt Leon's words. A scythe demon was already cruel. Actually, these are still far away for us, Sharjah said. Sharjah, who was at the side, finally spoke up. The threat to Earth is imminent. Just the high-level demon beasts in the Pacific Ocean alone are invincible. Even I can barely keep my life. The most dangerous thing is still the demon race experts. The Demon Lord's strength is stronger than the high-level demon beasts. The consequences are unimaginable. Lin Feng was also fearful in his heart. He had seen the power of the scythe demon with his own eyes. Even if he tried his best, he might not be able to kill the severely injured scythe demon. 3 crises, and none of them were easy to solve. There's still time. We could discuss this further. Leon looked at Lin Feng and nodded with satisfaction. Every increase in our combat power means a higher chance of winning. For the safety of mankind, Lin Feng, I believe you won't stay out of this, right? Of course not, Lin Feng said without hesitation. He looked at Sharjah and nodded. Also, if Senior Sharjah didn't help me that day, I would have died in the scythe demon's hands. And Big Brother, thanks to your help, we have a chance to meet again. Lin Feng said seriously, as long as it's useful to me and doesn't harm the country's interests, I'll do anything for you. Lin Zhan laughed heartily. Well said. We'll fight side by side. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. They didn't stay in ancient Greece for long. Lin Feng received news from the Justice Marshal and boarded the Red Lightning to return to ancient Huaxia with Lin Zhan. The Pacific Ocean had strange movements. Hundreds of annihilation-level beasts gathered. Under the leadership of high-level beasts, they were violent and crazy. They were like a group of hysterical lunatics. Meteorites fell from the sky. A mass extinction was coming. The beasts were completely crazy. To mankind, the meteorites were indeed a mass extinction. However, the Pacific Ocean had a chaotic beast tide. It was also a mass extinction disaster. Chapter 281. Red lightning moved like a flash of red lightning. Often, thank you for your hard work, Lin Zhan said apologetically. Brother, we don't have to treat each other like strangers. Lin Feng smiled. Taking care of mom and sister is what I should do. They must be very happy and excited to see you back. Finally, our family can be reunited. Lin Zhan's resolute face softened. Actually, I miss them too. His voice was soft, but it landed clearly in Lin Feng's ears. He sighed in his heart. How could he not know what Lin Zhan was thinking? Lin Zhan was like a father. Ever since he was young, he had been under a lot of pressure and burdens. This made him strong and tough. He shouldered everything on his shoulders. However, he was captured 3 years ago and had to wander around. This made Lin Zhan feel guilty. He felt guilty about this family. It was hard for him to face them. He felt that he didn't fulfill his responsibilities and regretted his rashness. Hence, when Lin Zhan came out from the Lion King's secret realm, he didn't return home immediately. It was hard for him to face his family. He wanted to atone for his sins and do what he should do. Brothers were connected. They grew up together. How could Lin Feng not know what Lin Zhan was thinking? Right now, he didn't need to talk. He just quietly accompanied Lin Zhan. After a long time, thank you, often. Lin Zhan smiled. Let bygones be bygones. Lin Feng understood what Lin Zhan meant. By the way, brother, are you going back? It depends, Lin Zhan said. Lin Zhan looked at Lin Feng and smiled. If you need my help, I'll stay. If there's nothing important, I'll return to the sacred palace to train. For golden saints, the sacred palace is the best place to train. It can improve one's small universe. Lin Feng nodded. A golden saint's small universe determined his strength. Every constellation, each constellation had its own small universe. It was just like the Geno warriors' Neo martial arts. It was the same for the small universe of the Gold Saints, who had transformed the saber intent into a fixed pattern and cultivated it. Lin Zhan's small universe was at rank 6, which was the title level. Once he broke through to the 7th stage, his mind expanse would increase to 70%. According to Senior Leon's words, he would become an advanced human. Listening to your words is better than studying for 10 years, Lin Feng said softly. He had a conversation with Senior Lion. It had completely broadened his horizons. His current strength was nothing. In the Nemo star, they were like ants. Just like in the ancient divine realm, there were countless elementary, intermediate, and advanced demonic beasts in a small river. There were even demonic beast lords. And this was not even the standard of a Stellar 2. Zero civilization. Phew, Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he looked forward to it. He could feel how small he was. The vastness of the universe made one's blood boil. It was full of challenges. Brother, Lin Feng murmured. If there's a chance. I want to go to Nemo. I expected it. Ancient China. Dongwu region. Activate the defense system. Sound the level 1 alarm. Speed up the migration of people. Move as many as you can. He was in a terrible fix. Huaxia. Everyone was in a state of panic and chaos. A tsunami had erupted along the coast. Countless savage-level monsters were attacking. If it were not for the city defense system, the majestic tsunami alone would have destroyed the entire Dongwu region. However, the S-grade city defense could withstand the tsunami, but it could not stop the endless savage-level monsters. Sea King-level monsters. Needless to say, Marshall, the first bank of Huaxia, is on its way. Marshall, the Elemental Commerce Alliance powerhouses have already set off. Marshall, the true martial arts dojo, and the military powerhouses have all arrived at the Dongwu region. In the command center, Zhou Jingyi's face was solemn. He was calm in the face of danger. He was wearing a Zhongshan suit. The red dragon reflected his unyielding determination. Carry out the original plan. Block the first wave of attack in the sea at all costs. There's still no annihilation-level monsters participating in the battle. We have the advantage in individual strength. Although the beast-tide attack is fierce, it is a motley crew. Zhou Jingyi's eyes lit up. Pass down the order. All savage-level powerhouses do not need to defend. Snipe the savage-level monsters at the sea line. Orders were issued one after another. Zhou Jingyi was calm in the face of danger. His eyes lit up. He had long expected this day to come. He had simulated the command countless times in his heart. Monsters had intelligence. To them, the first wave of attack was basically a test. The sooner it ended, the greater the impact on the monsters. They would be more fearful. The law of the jungle. Monsters bullied the weak and feared the strong more than humans. At this moment, Marshall, Alliance leader Lin Shang, is calling. Quick, connect him. Zhou Jingyi's eyes lit up instantly. He revealed a rare smile. To ancient Huaxia, Lin Feng was like a real martial emperor. He was the real stabilizing force. Red lightning. Pa! The micro-video projection disappeared. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Lin Zhan beside him was filled with fighting spirit. He clenched his fists and snapped his fingers. Brother, it seems like our return home will be delayed, Lin Feng said with a smile. Don't worry, Lin Zhan said. It has been a long time since we fought side by side. Lin Feng's eyes flashed with memories of the past. Since he was young, Big Brother had brought him to the commoner's area to train and fight. He felt as if he had returned to the past. Yes, Lin Zhan also revealed a nostalgic expression. He suddenly laughed heartily. But now, you don't need my protection anymore. Lin Feng smiled and said, because I'm the same as you, Big Brother. I already have someone I want to protect. Boom, 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 rumble. On the coastline of the Dongwu region, an unprecedented beast tide tsunami erupted. The powerful warriors from the military, the true martial dojo, the first bank of Huaxia, the Elemental Business Alliance, and the other powerful warriors were so small in front of the huge wild-level monsters. However, their fighting spirit and strength were not inferior at all. They guarded the S-grade defense system behind them tightly and did not give in at all. On the coastline, it was blood red. Corpses were everywhere. The corpses of monsters and the blood of human warriors mixed together to form a tragic scene. They were hot-blooded. For the country, for the protection in their hearts, they would rather die than retreat. This war was much crueler than the war between humans. It was a war between races. The capital city, the Western Shu region, the Qinhuang region. Battle scenes were shown on every screen in ancient Huaxia to encourage the people and to persevere in their beliefs. The streets and alleys were filled with people cheering for the heroes of ancient Huaxia and shouting with all their might. Each and every one of them was a hero with a strong backbone. Although the number of monsters in the sea was 10 times more than the number of human warriors, more people in the Dongwu region could survive for every second they held on. The corpses piled up into mountains. Where is Lord Lin Feng? Why haven't I seen Lord Lin Feng yet? Come quickly, Lord Lin Feng. Everyone waited nervously and looked forward to it. When the real disaster of the beast tide erupted, they realized how small they were. They were really small. They hoped for a miracle and longed for a miracle. At this moment, in the face of danger, the only thing they could think of was the super powerful warrior of Huaxia, who had created a miracle and fought against 2 ancient countries by himself. Lin Feng. Chapter 282. The manic-level monsters came crashing down like a tidal wave. They had huge bodies, electric beams, and all kinds of supernatural abilities. Their bodies were covered with thick scales. Although there were 10 times more of them than humans, these manic-level monsters did not have an easy time. The true martial dojo was guarding the defense line. Bai Jia, Ziyu Shu, Ming Punkuan, and Luo Wanjun, the 4 Sea King-level powerhouses, were in charge. Any one of them could easily defeat a manic-level monster. The 4 of them worked together and blocked the monster's fiercest attack with irresistible force. However, manic-level monsters were not the only ones in the sea. The number of Sea King-level monsters was also 10 times more than humans, and all of them were extremely difficult to deal with. The algae monsters were like plants, with countless branches waving around. Although their attack power was weak, their control power was top-notch. Especially the electric algae monsters. They were even more terrifying. The insect monsters had all kinds of special abilities. Some were like shadows, some were naturally invisible, some were wriggling and forcefully devouring. Some were soft-bodied insect monsters with strong defense like a sponge, and it was difficult to injure them. Among them, shrimp and fish monsters were the most numerous. The shrimp-type Sea King-level monsters were mostly strengthening-type monsters, with strong attack power. Even on land, they had strong, explosive power. The human powerhouses who could rely on their individual strength began to feel powerless as the number of Sea King-level monsters increased, and they began to lose ground. The casualties also began to increase. After all, there were only 9 Sea King-level powerhouses participating in the battle. For example, Marshal Fei Peng, Li Jixing, and the others were rushing over anxiously. However, time waited for no one. The appearance of Sea King-level monsters was like mushrooms after a rain. 30, 40, 50 more and more. Bang! Baijiev vomited blood and retreated. He was the strongest Sea King-level powerhouse among the human powerhouses. However, fighting 1 against 10 was still beyond what he could bear. Ziyushu was fighting 1 against 5 and was passively defending. Ming Pengkuan was fighting 1 against 3 and roared, but he was already covered in wounds. The situation was getting worse. Boom, boom, boom. The level defense system trembled violently and was constantly being destroyed. One by one, the Manic-level monsters launched strong attacks. Some Sea King-level monsters even broke through the defense line. The level defense system was in danger. Crack, crack, layer by layer shattered. It was like glass. Most importantly, it consumed a lot of energy. Even though the Dongwu region could activate the level defense system, the amount of energy required to activate the level defense system was tens of times more practical than the level defense system. Crack! The destruction of the defense system affected the hearts of every Huaxia citizen. The capital, the Qinhuang region, the Great Han region. Everyone was holding their breaths in front of the sky screen in the streets and alleys. Their bodies were trembling slightly, and some of the more cowardly ones did not dare to look at the scene before them. Once the defense system was destroyed, even if these manic-level monsters didn't rush in, the tsunami alone was enough to kill them. In the Dongwu domain, 70% of the people did not manage to escape in time. What awaited them? It would be a calamity of death. Doomsday. No, no, you must hold on. This was the hope of every Huaxia citizen. They clenched their fists and prayed. His heart seemed to be bleeding. Headquarters. Still not here yet? I can't hold on any longer. Lin foamed, faster, faster. Zhou Jingyi gritted his teeth. Looking at the dots of light on the screen, the beast-hide in the satellite image was like hell on earth. Seeing the human experts paying the price with their lives, he could not wait to go to the battlefield and kill immediately. But he clearly understood. Even if he joined the battle, the final result would not be of any help. Marshal, the energy is insufficient. Stop all energy supply and concentrate the energy on the defense system. Zhou Jingyi shouted without hesitation. Yes, Marshal. The military technician operated quickly. Beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. But Marshal, even so, we can't hold on for 30 seconds. The attacks of those monsters are too fierce. We can't resist at all. No. Zhou Jingyi shook his head. They can resist. He stared at the satellite image with a deep gaze. Then, he looked at the small dot on the screen not far away. It was approaching bit by bit. 10 more seconds. Zhou Jingyi's eyes flickered. He subconsciously clenched his fists. 10 more seconds. He can reach the battlefield. 8 seconds. 6 seconds. The dot of light was approaching slowly. Time was running out. The military technician in charge wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. He said with a trembling voice, Marshal, the defense system can only hold on for 15 seconds. 14. 13. Whoosh! A red lightning bolt appeared. It fell on the screen and paused for a moment. It was a Sea King-class fighter jet that was as fast as lightning. Its appearance was so strange, but it seemed to have stopped the noisy and tragic battlefield in an instant. Time froze at that moment. Whoosh! The cabin door opened. A figure wearing Class Geno armor appeared. He's here. Zhou Jingyi smiled as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He let out a long breath. He's here. A figure that made people tremble. A face that made people's hearts beat wildly. In ancient Huaxia, All the people gathered in front of the sky screen were crying tears of joy. Their bodies could not stop shaking as they let out thunderous cheers. They waved their arms with all their might and shouted until their throats were hoarse. Their faces were filled with excitement. Lin Feng. It's Mr. Lin Feng. Mr. Lin Feng is finally here. This is great. We're saved. Kill all these abominable monsters. In ancient Huaxia, there was a thunderous roar. At this moment, on the battlefield, Lin Feng's appearance also greatly boosted the morale of the soldiers. All the human elites who were stubbornly resisting seemed to have been injected with a cardiac stimulant in an instant. Their originally clenched teeth and persevered instantly turned into excitement and joy. Today, Lin Feng was fully deserving of the title of Ancient Huaxia. The sea-stabilizing needle. Whoosh! Stepping on the flying sword, Lin Feng sped down. Looking at the tragic scene in front of him, Lin Feng's heart was filled with anger and hatred. The blood in his body was burning. Although his injuries had not healed, even if he was seriously injured, as long as he had a bit of strength, as long as he had a breath, he would fight like these elites who had been fighting until now. Fight to the end. Use blood and flesh to protect his country. He would not retreat half a step. Thunderhell. Lin Feng sped up his flying sword, and the golden dragon behind him roared. The saber light thundered, and the 9 dark thunder saber bloomed with boundless power, shooting straight into the sky. The saber energy filled the sky. Dozens of saber energy condensed in the air, mixed with the power of fire and thunder, and mixed with Lin Feng's extreme anger. The moment he attacked, it was thunderous and destructive. Die! Lin Feng's eyes were about to crack. Boom! With one move, the sky and earth changed color. Chapter 283. Killer God's Descent. With Lin Feng's current strength, he could even kill Annihilation-grade monsters. Sea King-level monsters were like ants to him. In terms of individual power, the Thunder Hell wasn't even as powerful as the first spring thunderstorm. But in terms of group attacks, it was the best choice. Endless blade, energy condensed into hundreds of lightning bolts. Any savage-grade monster that was hit would be killed immediately, and Sea King-level monsters would be severely injured. If the blade energy hit them directly, even Annihilation-grade monsters would be severely injured. Sea King-level monsters would die without a doubt. Chi! 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 The blade energy filled the sky, creating a hell of blade energy. There were no blind spots. With Lin Feng's current blade technique realm, he could control hundreds of blade energy with ease, let alone 10. In an instant, the entire coastline battlefield seemed to have stopped. But in an instant, roar, roar. The crazy and shrill cries of the monsters resounded through the sky. With just one strike, he had killed a total of 8 Sea King-level monsters and countless savage-level monsters. Bai Jia, Ziyu Shu, Ming Peng Kuan, and the others were dumbfounded. They looked at Lin Feng, who was like the thunder god, descending from the sky. It was as if they saw the real martial emperor reappear. Master, what terrifying strength. He's too strong. Is he human? Everyone was shocked, but it only lasted for an instant. Spring thunderstorm. Lin Feng's blade cut through the sky. In an instant, the lightning-fast blade energy tore a Sea King-level monster apart. The powerful blade energy and blade energy directly killed all the savage-grade monsters around. The 9U Thunderblade activated the power of thunder and lightning. Lin Feng didn't stop at all. He moved as fast as lightning. Everywhere he passed, the Sea King-level monsters were no match for him. Killing mode activate. On the other side, lightning speed fist. Lin Zhan also made his move. His tiger body was like steel that had been tempered thousands of times. The Leo Gold Saint garment emitted a golden light. The power of the small universe complemented his burial power. He was like a god of war standing on the coastline. That was a giant golden god. It was the Golden Lion Beast King. It was an existence that no one could surpass. Boom! Headquarters. The military technicians all opened their mouths wide in shock as they stared at the satellite image, dumbfounded. At this moment, Although the Dongwu region's defense system was on the verge of collapse, it was only on the verge of collapse. Without the bombardment of those savage-level and Sea King-level monsters, the level defense system would not last for more than 10 seconds. Even if he could hold on for another 10 minutes, 100 minutes wouldn't be a problem. The situation was reversed in an instant. Lin Feng and Lin Zhan, one attacking and the other defending, complemented each other well. The Nine Nether Thunder's saber roared with electric light. Everywhere it passed, a bloody mist spread. No one survived. Lin Feng didn't even use 10% of his strength to deal with these savage and Sea King-level monsters. Just by relying on the strength of the body, the strength of the saber technique realm was enough to destroy the city like rotten wood. On the coastline, the corpses of Sea King-class monsters were everywhere. But the beast tide did not retreat. Instead, it became even more intense and frantic. The Annihilation-class monster had arrived. A true king, the king of the ocean, a top-notch elemental monster. The waves were roaring. Many Annihilation-class monsters appeared one after another. There were 7 of them. One was more powerful than the other. The tiger shark monster in the lead was like the commander of an army. It overturned the river and the sea, causing the entire monster army to have a different aura. Golden Tungsten Tiger Shark King. Zhou Zhengyi's expression changed. In the Pacific Ocean, this was a very strong Annihilation-class monster. It was a high-level Annihilation-class monster and ranked 5th in the Pacific Ocean. 10 years ago, the true Martial Emperor had fought with it. He only won by a small margin. He could defeat it, but couldn't kill it. In the ocean, sea monsters had a natural advantage. Number 1, Poisonous Green Silver Otter. Number 19, White Bone Yin Yang Evil Mermaid. High-level Annihilation-class monsters appeared on the sea surface one after another. The hearts of the technicians in the command center were beating wildly. Their expressions were a little ugly. One monster might not be a big deal, but 3 high-level Annihilation-class monsters. Even if the true Martial Emperor came personally, it would be difficult to deal with them. Even Zhou Zhengyi, who had been calm all this time, frowned. Previously, he was indeed confident. Because Lin Feng's strength was comparable to the true Martial Emperor, he could naturally deal with this beast tide. But now, even the true Martial Emperor would find it difficult to fight against 3 high-level Annihilation-class monsters. Of course, it was on the sea. If it was on land, the Annihilation-class monster's strength would undoubtedly be greatly reduced. Ask Lin Feng to retreat. Zhou Zhengyi gritted his teeth and made a decision. Extend the defense line. There is no need to fight them head-on. Wait for them to come ashore. This was a painful decision, because this meant giving up the level defense system and the entire Dongwu domain. But to Zhou Zhengyi, Lin Feng was more important than the Dongwu domain. However, before the teleportation order was sent, Zhou Zhengyi was already stunned. Facing a total of 7 Annihilation-class monsters, Lin Feng killed them one by one as if he was chopping firewood. It was clean and neat, as if they were just ordinary elemental beasts. Number 19, White Bone Yin Yang Evil Mermaid, 1/. Number 1, Poisonous Green Silver Otter, 1/ again. Boom! Thunder roared. Lin Feng slashed down, and the 5 mountains seemed to be shattered. The leader was the Golden Tungsten Tiger King. Its golden scales were completely shattered. Blood dyed the entire sea surface red. Its ferocious eyes were filled with anger and unwillingness. It had the same ending as the other 6 Annihilation-class monsters. 1/ was fatal. However, this time, Lin Feng looked like he was having a hard time. But in Zhou Zhengyi's eyes, in the eyes of every Huaxia citizen in front of the sky, it was like a magnitude 9 earthquake. A total of 7 Annihilation-class monsters were easily killed by 1/ in the sea. There was no second slash. He has become stronger again. Zhou Zhengyi's smile was a little surprised, but it was more of pride and satisfaction. So, he is the real big monster. Ming Peng Kuan's ugly face twitched, but he was laughing foolishly. A descendant of the Ji family, Ziyushu murmured. Master's decision back then was correct. Bai Jie sat down on the ground and burst into laughter. He was indescribably happy. Not only him, but the other surviving Huaxiao elites were all smiling. As Lin Feng went straight into the sea of thousands of sea monsters and killed 7 annihilation-class monsters, the sea monsters were finally scared. They were scared out of their wits. The remaining monsters all ran back into the sea, not daring to fight anymore. Cheers resounded in the sky of ancient Huaxia. In every region, in every city, a thunderous roar erupted. Looking at the heroic figure in the sky, who was like a god of war, their hearts were filled with worship. They called out his name, remembered his strength, and remembered the miracles he had created one after another. Lin Feng, Lin Feng. Cheers rose and fell. Ancient Huaxia became a sea of joy. This was especially true for the survivors of the Dongwu domain. Every single one of them had smiles on their faces, as if they had just survived a calamity. Yet not long ago, they had been so close to death. Brother, now, you are really unfathomable. Lin Zhan's resolute eyes shone brightly. He smiled with satisfaction. Chapter 284. The Ministry of National Defense. Dozens of scientists and technicians were working on a set of sophisticated equipment. Their fingers flew like the wind, and they were like a suspended river gushing water. Lines of symbols appeared on the supercomputer, and the screen kept changing. On the largest screen, Lin Feng's figure appeared. Huaxiao Lin Feng. He spoke in stiff Chinese. It was a burly man in a black soft combat armor, with muscles as rugged as mountains. He was like a huge mountain, with an overwhelming aura of power. The third strongest person in the world, the nuclear bomb commander. Commander, Lin Feng's overall combat strength index is -95. Attack index is -135. He has a high-level holy treasure. Defense index is -50. He has no holy treasure. Speed index is -100. He has no holy treasure. Talent Soul Stage 6. Title Top Combat Strength. The nuclear bomb commander's eyes were like lightning. And he's an attack type. Why does such a talent only appear in Huaxia? There was a hint of envy in the nuclear bomb commander's eyes. If our country has such a talent, coupled with the most advanced alien technology, the ancient Greek country will be nothing. He's only 19 years old. Next to the nuclear bomb commander was a man with blonde hair and glasses. His elegant suit made him look out of place. I'm afraid he hasn't used his full strength. His true strength may be between -100 and -10. Dr. Jean, are you sure? The nuclear bomb commander asked in a deep voice. The man with blonde hair and glasses known as Dr. Jean said, Defense-type holy treasures are the most common. This alone can raise his overall combat strength index to -100 and above. Judging from his appearance, he should be suffering from old injuries. A conservative estimate of his overall combat strength index is -110. The nuclear bomb commander was silent, and his face was a little solemn. That's impossible. The boxing king beside him said in a low voice. The true martial emperor's overall combat strength index is only -11. How can this kid be comparable to the true martial emperor? Shut up. The nuclear bomb commander growled. The boxing king dared not say a word. Whatever Dr. Jean says, it must be as much as it is. The nuclear bomb commander said firmly. From his tone and expression, it was clear that the nuclear bomb commander thought highly of Dr. Jean. He was even more important than the second strongest person in the country, the boxing king. It's useless. Even someone as strong as the true martial emperor would not be able to escape death. Professor Jean adjusted his glasses. Once the Pacific Ocean beast tide erupts, China will definitely be razed to the ground. He's a transcendent being with a comprehensive combat power index of -190. The beast tide in the Pacific Ocean quickly calmed down. Despite paying a terrible price, ancient Huaxiao won in the end. Not only did they defend the Dongwu territory, but they also dealt a heavy blow to the morale of the sea monsters. Especially when Lin Feng killed 7 annihilation-class monsters in a row. More importantly, he had established an absolute reputation for himself. After this battle, I believe we will have some time to breathe, Zhou Jingyi said with satisfaction. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. What ancient Huaxia lacked the most was time. The Mars migration plan was in full swing. The more time passed, the more China elites could be evacuated. Marshal, let me introduce you. Lin Feng smiled and waved his hand. This is my big brother Lin Zhan, a Leo constellation gold saint. He is my biological big brother. Lin Zhan smiled. Ancient Greece's new hero, Escart. Zhou Jingyi's eyes lit up. This is the Greek name my teacher gave me. Lin Zhan reached out his hand. Hello, I'm Lin Zhan. Justice Marshal, I've heard a lot about you. Zhou Jingyi shook his hand and laughed. I didn't expect the famous hero of ancient Greece to be a Huaxian. He is also Lin Feng's biological big brother. Like brother. Ancient Huaxia has you two brothers in the future. What do we have to fear? Lin Feng smiled. Marshal, you're too kind. As they spoke, the door of the command center opened. Two figures walked in. They were Li Jixing and Lan Feiping. Sorry, we're late. Li Jixing apologized. If I had known, I wouldn't have entered the roulette to cultivate. Lan Feiping blamed himself. After entering the sacred site, the powerful magnetic field energy interfered. It was equivalent to being isolated from the outside world. It was no wonder that the two of them rushed over as fast as they could after hearing the news. It's okay. Fortunately, Lin Feng and Lin Zhan came in time. The Dongwu region didn't suffer any casualties. Zhou Jingyi nodded, but many savage-level experts were sacrificed. Lan Feiping's heart ached. Zhou Jingyi's eyes showed some sadness. How can there be no casualties in war? As a soldier, we have to face challenges at all times. In the face of war, we can only be real soldiers and real men after experiencing the baptism of cruel battles. Lin Feng nodded. Battles and training made people grow. It was completely possible to believe that the strength of the powerhouses who survived this battle would definitely reach a higher level. After the battle, the Dongwu region re-established order. Under Lin Feng's instructions, the Elemental Commerce Alliance transported all kinds of energy resources to build huge energy storage cabins and defensive weapons. Technological weapons were like cannons to Sea King-level experts. However, they were very useful against huge and shocking numbers of sea monsters. They strengthened their defenses and deepened their coastline defenses. The Pacific Ocean beast tide wasn't without benefits. At least they had a clearer understanding of the strength of the beast tide and set up defenses according to the situation. The wisdom of humans was limitless. Despite everyone's persuasion, Lan Feiping still felt guilty. He insisted on staying in the Dongwu region to protect it and atone for his sins. Everyone let him be. Moreover, the Dongwu region was building boldly and decisively. They indeed needed a heavyweight expert to oversee it. Li Jixing returned to the Shiva sect's holy temple to continue cultivating. According to him, with Lin Feng around, ancient Huaxia didn't matter whether he was there or not. Elemental City. Lin Feng and Lin Zhan stood slowly. Looking at his brother, Lin Feng looked forward. Not far away, his mother was wearing an apron and pruning branches quietly. All along, his mother had yearned for such a peaceful and comfortable life. Unfortunately, his father was no longer with her. What he lost in the past couldn't be recovered. However, what he had now, he could cherish it. Go, brother, Lin Feng said softly. Although Mom doesn't say it, she has always been worried about you. Lin Feng looked at his mother's figure and muttered softly, no matter where we moved to, she would personally decorate the room for you. She would clean it regularly and make the bed for you. She would never let anyone else do it. Two streams of tears flowed from Lin Zhan's eyes. His footsteps were as heavy as lead. His body was trembling. Lin Feng had never seen his brother like this before. One step. Lin Zhan's footsteps were heavy and uncomfortable. Suddenly, as if sensing something, his mother, Ji Ruhua, slowly raised her head. Clack! The scissors fell to the ground. A shocked expression appeared on Ji Ruhua's face. Tom seemed to have stopped at that moment. Suddenly, Ji Ruhua revealed a peaceful and picturesque smile. Her eyes were slightly moist. She said softly, "My child, you are back." Mom! Lin Zhan couldn't hold back his tears anymore. Instantly, Tears fell like rain. Lin Feng looked at his brother and mother. He secretly wiped away the tears at the corner of his eyes and smiled. At this moment, he completely forgot all his troubles and threw away all his pressure. In this world, nothing was more profound than kinship. Chapter 285. Elemental City, College Hall. Your brother is so cool. Yeah, I've watched the videos on the internet more than 10 times. Alliance leader Lin Shang is so cool. When can you invite us to your house? A group of girls surrounded Lin Yu, chattering among themselves. 12 or 13 years old was the age to chase after celebrities. Yu smiled sweetly, revealing a beautiful and proud smile. Her brother was not only the most powerful alliance leader of the Elemental Commerce Alliance, but also a hero comparable to the true martial emperor. Naturally, she felt extremely proud. Let me tell you, my brother's physique was not good at all when he was young. Yu winked playfully. Also, because of a small problem with my brother's body, Humph, that elite Crown Academy that looked down on people, even chased my brother out of the school. Really? Wow, it can't be. Isn't Crown Elite Academy too stupid? Blind as a bat. The boys at the side were indignant. Serves them right that Dragon-Killing Island was destroyed and Elite Crown Academy was merged into Ancient Huaxia. That's right, short-sighted people. A boy gently stroked the battle sword in his hand, revealing his fondness for it. The battle sword was 90% similar to the 9 Serenity Thunder Sword, except that it did not have the power of thunder and lightning. However, the boy still could not put it down, treating it as a treasure. No one laughed at him. Because of Lin Feng, not only did he join the battle college, but the number of combat warriors in the Elemental Commerce Alliance also increased greatly. Even the sword had become the hottest weapon of the ancient martial artists, especially the 9 Serenity Thunder Sword, which was sold out. In every man's heart, there was a heroic story that they all yearned for. To stand at the top of the strong. Yu gave a thumbs up and said sweetly, "Well said, Yu. Haha. Our Xiao Yu is Alliance leader Lin Shang's most hardcore admirer." A thick-browed boy laughed. He sneered at the girls. "What's the big deal about watching the videos on the internet 10 times? Our Xiao Yu has watched more than 100 times. He even abandoned the sword and picked up the sword, learning to imitate Alliance leader Lin Shang's sword skills." The boy was a little shy. He lowered his head and smiled. "Really?" Yu covered her mouth and said in surprise, "Do you really admire your brother that much, Xiao Yu?" The boy, Xiao Yu, raised his head and nodded vigorously. "Alliance leader Lin Shang is the pride of every Chinese man. One day, I will also become a great hero like him." "Well said." "That's right. We are all men." All the boys shouted together. Not far away, a tall and straight figure stood there, his eyes flashing. With a soft sigh, Lin Feng took in the entire scene. He felt warm in his heart, but he also had a heavy responsibility. Earth was now besieged on all sides, and it was difficult to protect it. Let's not talk about the meteorite extinction 2 years later. The beast tide in the Pacific Ocean alone was extremely dangerous. The Dongwu region had almost been destroyed. How many children like them would have been drowned by the waves and swallowed by the sea monsters? And this, it was only the first beast tide, and he was indeed able to turn the tide. But the next time, if that high-level demonic beast was leading the beast tide, what would it be? Strength. I need more strength. Lin Feng clenched his fists tightly. He had an endless desire. He wanted to give Earth a peaceful environment. He wanted these children to grow up without worries, even if there were less than 3 years left. "Yu, oh no, Yu. Ba. This is great, Yu. Your brother is here." Alliance leader Lin Shang. A group of 12 or 13-year-old boys and girls stood there in a daze. They looked at the ordinary-looking young man in front of them, but they did not even dare to breathe loudly. All this time, they had only seen him on the screen and on the internet. Now, they saw him in person. It felt like a dream. Xiao Yu, the knife-wielding teenager, was especially excited. "Brother." Yu rushed over with a sweet smile, like a swallow returning to its nest. "So many people are watching. Aren't you ashamed?" Lin Feng smiled and rubbed his sister's little head. Yu wrinkled her nose. "They are so envious. Right, Ying? Liliana. The two cute girls at the side immediately cried out. Their faces were as red as apples. It was as if juice could drip out of them. Lin Feng could not do anything about his sister. He said dotingly, let's go home. Huh? Lin Yuer sneered. Now, brother. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. I have good news for you. Yuer's beautiful eyes brightened. She smiled and nodded. They did not stay. Under the envious gazes of the crowd, Lin Feng and Yuer were about to leave. Suddenly, Alliance leader Lin Shang. A trembling voice sounded. Lin Feng stopped and turned his head to look. It was the blade-wielding youth, Xiao Yu. At this moment, his body was slightly trembling, but it was unknown whether he was nervous or excited. Xiao Yu tightly gripped his battle blade, and his small eyes were filled with extreme desire. Alliance leader Lin Shang, can I become as strong as you? Yes, Lin Feng said with a smile. As long as you are willing to work hard, as long as you have goals and dreams, and as long as you have people you want to protect with your life, you will definitely become a true expert. Lin Feng smiled. Then, he left with his sister, Yuer. At home, big brother, Yuer, who stared blankly at the familiar, yet weathered face in front of her. Little sister, you are back. Lin Zhan wore an apron and held a kitchen knife in his hand. He walked out of the kitchen with a smile. Lin Feng was also stunned. He had never seen his big brother like this. It was very strange, but very intimate. This child insisted on coming to the kitchen to help me. His mother, Ji Ruhua, walked out with a plate of steaming hot dishes in her hands. Her smile was filled with affection. Mom, don't look down on me. Lin Zhan held the kitchen knife in his hand and waved it. He raised his eyebrows at Lin Feng. When you were young, Offing's knife skills were taught by me personally. Lin Feng smiled. He could tell that his big brother had changed. After he came back, he was very different from before. In the past, if he had the time, he would have gone to cultivate. Big brother, Yuer burst into tears. She ran towards her big brother, crying tears of joy. Lin Zhan raised his hands. He didn't know what to do. He was afraid that the kitchen knife had no eyes. Suddenly, his hands were empty. Lin Zhan looked over in shock. Offing, brother, accompany Yuer, Lin Feng said with a smile. As for cutting the vegetables, leave it to me. The kitchen knife in Lin Feng's hand was like an illusion. He moved it easily. In terms of knife skills, no one in the family can be compared to me. His mother, Ji Ruhua, laughed. She shook her head and was speechless. Lin Zhan laughed. Not only that, in the whole of China, you can't find another person who can surpass you in knife skills. Everyone laughed. The family was happy and harmonious. They gathered together. Even if there was a storm outside, lightning flashed and thunder roared, home would always be the most heartwarming place. Chapter 286. On the eve of the storm, the Pacific Ocean was turbulent. Angry roars of the sea monsters could be heard from time to time, but they did not attack the Dongwu region. Just as Zhou Jingyi expected, the sea monsters were indeed in danger, but the first wave of beast tide was crucial. Even if they could not stop the chaos, they could at least delay the attack. Time. For ancient Huaxia, time was the most important thing. The defense of the Dongwu region was in full swing. The construction of spaceships was nonstop, one after another. The first batch of Mars immigrants had set off in advance, and the second batch of Mars immigrants had arrived earlier. A large number of ordinary spaceships were assembled, and batches of technicians were quickly trained. Lin Feng was also making use of the time to recover. With his powerful spiritual qi and the help of the heavenly materials from the Business Alliance, Lin Feng had almost recovered in 7 days. The fifth level of the man-made pyramid was the place with the fastest cultivation speed, but now it seemed a bit slow. As expected, the level of the energy in the universe is too low. Lin Feng was helpless. The energy level of the universe on Earth was only 9. It was much stronger than in the ancient martial era, but it was much weaker than planet Nemo and the ancient divine realm. The man-made pyramids purified the energy of the universe as if they were expelling impurities, making them extremely pure. However, the nature of the energy on Earth would not change. Compared to the cultivation of the talent soul, the absorption of the energy of the universe is 10 times less. and I can't cultivate the true dragon saint power. Lin Feng was running the 6th level of the ruthless spectrum. In his mind, the talent soul rotated slowly, but the golden dragon seemed to be asleep. Just like what Xiang Yu said, the saint power and holy qi could not be cultivated here. It was like giving some hay to lions and tigers. It could not arouse their interest at all. When the 2nd level of the true dragon saint power was absorbed in the ancient divine realm, it would increase the absorption speed of the talent soul by 100 times. The cultivation speed, it was 1,000 times worse. It was too cruel. The ruthless spectrum, one of the few talents close to the super heaven level. From the 4th level onwards, the absorption speed of the spiritual power increases by 10 times. The 5th level is the 5th level of the heaven level, and the 6th level is the 2nd level of the heaven level. Lin Feng had already comprehended all 6 levels of the ruthless spectrum, which was Li Xuanhuan's strongest flying dagger secret manual in the post-Wuxiao era. It's still 100 times worse. If there's a place on Earth that can absorb holy power or holy qi, thinking of this, Lin Feng's heart suddenly moved. Holy relic, the 7 great sacred relics. If I can cultivate in the saint remains, I'll definitely be able to raise my strength much faster. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly, as if he had suddenly grasped a sliver of opportunity. The Bermuda Triangle. Olympia, the Temple of Zeus, and the Temple of Goddess Artemis. These 3 places are eliminated first. They represented country, ancient Greece, and the European Union. Perhaps only the Temple of Artemis could try, but the price was not small. According to the Marshal of Justice, no one has ever entered the Great Wall of China. It is still an unsolvable mystery. Lin Feng nodded. There is no such thing as luck. He would not be an exception, and there must be some unknown reason involved. Right now, he didn't have much time to solve the riddle. India's Shiva Holy Temple is to enter the true Holy Temple. It seems that I have to pass through the roulette channel first. Lin Feng thought to himself, I should master one of the holy qi in at least 2 levels or above. Maybe is possible. There are only 2 left. Lin Feng calculated in his mind. The Egyptian pyramid and the Hanging Garden of Babylon. According to Senior Lion, these 2 sacred relics are products of stellar civilizations and should be the most suitable for me at present. Lin Feng knew that it was not necessarily a good thing for the sacred relics to be too strong. If there was danger in the sacred relics, he wouldn't even know how he died. For example, if he entered the Shiva temple rashly, he would accidentally fall into the Shiva statue's trap. Wait, Lin Feng was stunned. The sickle demon came from Nemo and must know the difference between the levels of energy in the universe. According to Senior Sharjah, it would take a very long time for him to recover from his serious injuries with a meager energy of heaven and earth on earth. If I were him, Lin Feng's eyes brightened as his chest rose and fell rapidly. I would definitely find a place to recover my strength quickly. Sacred relics. Lin Feng stood up abruptly. He was excited as if he had discovered a new continent. Compared to the known high-level monsters in the Pacific Ocean, the sickle demon hiding in the dark was the real threat. If he recovered his strength, he would be a transcendent being comparable to the Lord of Monsters. He alone could kill all the strong people on Earth. How is it, brother? What did Senior Sharjah say? Lin Feng asked. Lin Zhan nodded. Teacher said that it is possible. Country, ancient Huaxia, ancient Greece, and the European Union are all safe and sound. There are only 3 sacred relics left. Excluding the Shiva temple that we control, the sickle demon only has 2 choices, the Hanging Garden and the Pyramid. Brother, let's leave immediately. Lin Feng looked anxious. If it was as he guessed, the sickle demon would recover his strength at a rapid pace after entering the sacred relics. Yes, Lin Zhan nodded. Teacher has left for Egypt. Let's go to ancient Babylon. Lin Feng made a decision. Let's go. Whoosh! The red lightning flew across the sky. Aren't we going to ancient Babylon? Lin Zhan was slightly surprised. Let's go to the capital first. Lin Feng raised his crystal watch and smiled. There is news from the Science Research Institute. They spent 7 days to create 2 SSS grade vests. Lin Zhan was in disbelief. SSS grade? It has only been 3 years, and ancient Huaxia's technology has improved so much. Didn't they just create S-grade elemental battlesuits? Actually, the main thing is the materials. Lin Feng said, for example, we killed 7 annihilation-grade monsters this time. Some of their fur can be used to create SS-grade elemental battlesuits. Normally, it was extremely difficult to kill an annihilation-grade monster. After all, they were all in the sea. However, they had gained a lot from this beast tide. Not only were they able to create SS-grade armor, but they could also create SS-grade weapons. After all, if it was just a rough creation, there was no need for complicated craftsmanship. For example, these 2 SSS-grade vests were actually made from the skin of the flaming scale fruit. Although they could not be sewn, they could use some special craftsmanship to stick them together. TSK, TSK. Lin Zhan's eyes lit up. The gold saint garment is pushed to its limit, but it only has an SSS-grade defense. Often, your opportunity in ancient god realm is not bad. Lin Feng nodded. That place is indeed a good place for training. It is a pity that you can only enter once every 10 years. If you can stay there for a month, you can kill all the high-level monsters, demon elites. Lin Feng smiled and said, you can kill them all. Lin Zhan laughed. How can there be such a good thing? Lin Feng looked into the distance. His eyes flashed with longing. Maybe there is one on Planet Nemo. Chapter 287. Science Research Institute. Hello, Dean One. Lin Feng greeted Lin Zhan. The white-haired old man in front of him had an extraordinary status in ancient Huaxia. He controlled the scientific research of ancient Huaxia and had been silently making contributions. It could be said that ancient Huaxia was able to stand at the top of the world today because of his contributions. He was very worthy of respect. As expected, heroes come from the young. Wenemo smiled and said, follow me. The 2 fire scale saint garments have been completed. We're just waiting for you to test them. Fire scale saint garments? Lin Feng was slightly stunned. It seemed that it was different from what he had imagined. As Wenemo entered the Science Research Institute, large superbrains, machinery, and instruments filled the entire Science Research Institute. Here, scientists studied various energy technologies, deduced elemental martial arts, and created laser particle weapons. All the elites and geniuses of ancient Huaxia were gathered here. Pada. Nervous and busy, the scientists studied diligently without any distractions. Just this level of concentration was enough to make people gasp in admiration. After passing through layers of corridors, Lin Feng came to a huge room. It was 3-dimensional and sci-fi. The layers of electromagnetic lines were clear, and there were scientific instruments everywhere. In the center of the room, there were 2 fiery red defensive vests. They seemed to be condensed from layers of scales and gathered into a ball of burning flames. This is the fire scale saint garments. Lin Zhan's eyes lit up. This was the first time he had seen it. Lin Feng was very surprised. It was indeed a masterpiece. In just 7 days, it had changed so much. It was really difficult to connect the fiery red defensive vests in front of him with the extremely ugly fire scale fruit. Holding the fire scale saint garments, Lin Feng felt his heart beat faster. His cells were excited. The vests seemed to be a little hard. How to wear it? Lin Feng suddenly felt a little troubled. Lin Feng turned his gaze to Dean One. Seeing his smiling face, Lin Feng thought to himself, fire scale saint garments, saint garments. Lin Feng instantly understood. In his body, Lin Feng controlled the crimson fire sacred energy and channeled it into his hands. In an instant, the fire scale saint garments bloomed with bright flames. Lin Feng's heart beat faster. It was as if they were connected by blood. What he was holding in his hand was no longer a defensive vest, but a living thing. Whoosh! He put on effortlessly. It didn't feel hot or hard at all. Instead, it felt comfortable. Blazing energy flowed through his body, filled with explosive power. Lin Feng moved his arms. The defensive vest didn't affect his movements in the slightest. With a thought, Lin Feng's eyes turned cold. Clang! His spiritual energy was unable to penetrate the defensive vest. True Dragon Saint Power Tier 2. Spiritual Energy Attack is almost at the titled pinnacle. Previously, I can break the skin of the flaming scaled fruit, but now, I can't do it. Lin Feng smiled. He knew the reason. For example, Geno Armor could give it Geno Energy, which could greatly increase its defense. For example, Gold Armor could increase its defense when it was activated by a small universe. Holy Robe, Holy Chi Armor. Good. Lin Feng clenched his fists in excitement. His trip to the ancient divine domain allowed Lin Feng to clearly understand the importance of defense. With such a tyrannical defensive vest, his strength would increase by more than a level. His gaze fell on Lin Zhan, who had also put it on. However, there was no feeling of burning flames or surging vitality. Even so, the vest itself had level defense, reaching the level of a beginner holy treasure. If it was activated with the Crimson Fire Holy Chi, the Flaming Scale Holy Robe would be a mid-level holy treasure. It's time. Wenemo sighed softly. If Jinwu had such a vest to protect himself that day, he might not have died. Perhaps I won't die. When Mo shook his head. He and Jinwu were both from the ancient martial era. They had experienced the sixth great extinction and survived. One of them was a scholar, and the other was a warrior. They had known each other for 100 years. He was the saddest about Jinwu's death. Lin Feng looked at Wenemo. He had thousands of words to say, but he didn't know what to say. I'm old, so I'm always sad. Sorry for the joke. Wenemo revealed a gratified smile and said slowly, Jinwu's greatest wish in his life was to protect ancient Huaxia for 100 years. He did it. The second was to find a successor to replace him to protect ancient Huaxia for another 100 years. Believe in him. He will be able to rest in peace in the underworld. Wenemo looked at Lin Feng and nodded. He is a true hero of great kindness and righteousness. Lin Zhan straightened his body, his eyes full of respect. My life was given to me by Lord Jinwu. As long as ancient Huaxian needs me, I will not hesitate to go through fire and water. Lin Feng nodded seriously. Me too. The people of the Dongwu territory who had survived the disaster appeared in his mind, and the children in the academy who were as old as his sister. They had experienced a lot. He could now understand Lord Jinwu's pursuit, his determination, and wish even if he had to give up everything. By the way, you should be able to use this. When Mo handed over a small compass, Lin Feng took it and looked at it curiously. It was like a compass condensed from special tempered glass. Holding in his hand, he could feel a very strong magnetic force, as well as a familiar but strange and powerful energy. Lin Feng picked up the compass and vaguely saw that there was dark red blood flowing like meridians at the bottom. This is? Lin Feng looked at Dinwen. Have you forgotten? When Mo smiled and said, that day at the Heavenly Demon Sect, you and Sharja fought fiercely against a powerful demon. You cut off his right arm and forced him to escape with serious injuries. Lin Feng nodded. Now that Dinwen said this, it was indeed true. The right arm of a powerful demon is very precious. When Mo's eyes were bright, it has a lot of research value. The body structure of a demon is completely different from that of a human. Their cells have strong vitality, and they have the ability to remember and regenerate. Because of this, the scientists of Huaxiao worked tirelessly to create this demonic blood plate. Although the demonic blood plate can't determine the location of that powerful demon, it can point in its direction. Of course, when Mo smiled and said, this is only a preliminary experiment. We can't confirm whether it is effective or not. However, since you're looking for that powerful demon, the demonic blood plate might be able to help you. Demonic blood plate. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. If Dinwen's words were true, then it would be more than just a little help. This is the first time I've seen a demon. It's really amazing. When Mo's eyes shone, the country's super rebirth gene fluid is nothing. The powerful genes of the demon's body are truly unimaginable. As long as the core isn't destroyed, they can regenerate endlessly. Core. Lin Feng was moved. Dean, may I ask where the core of the demon race is? 1Mo hesitated slightly, muttering to himself. Logically speaking, the core should be the brain, but from our research, the structure of the demon race's bloodline, the rebirth of cellular memories, points to the center of the chest. 1Mo pointed at his own chest, the position of the purple palace. Lin Feng was shocked and felt lucky. Fortunately, he had come here first. His understanding of the demon race had undoubtedly deepened. "Thank you very much, Dean One," Lin Feng said respectfully. "I will definitely pay you a visit in the future." Lin Feng's eyes shone as he nodded vigorously. "We will take our leave first." After saying this, the two of them quickly left. They were heading straight for Babylon. Chapter 288. On the Red Lightning. It is indeed moving. Lin Feng stared at the demonic blood plate. As the red lightning moved forward, the needle on the demonic blood plate kept changing slightly. It was as if it was pointing at a place where demons lived. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He suddenly changed his position. The needle on the demonic blood plate also changed at the same time. "Something's not right," Lin Zhan said. "It is shaking violently." Lin Feng frowned. The two of them looked at each other. They had a clear answer. Magnetic field interference. Lin Zhan said, "He is indeed in the sacred remains." Lin Feng sighed. "That was close. If we had discovered him a little later, we would have been in big trouble. The later we discover him, the more his strength will recover." Lin Zhan stared at the demonic blood plate. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. We cannot underestimate a demon venerable, even if he recovers 10% of his strength. Once he recovers 30% or more, we will really be finished. Lin Feng calculated carefully. It has been 20 days since he escaped. He was severely injured then. With the demon's cautious nature, he would definitely not appear at this time. He must have found a place to hide and recover part of his strength. Lin Feng nodded and muttered to himself. He also suffered from the backlash of the Qiyu great celestial demon bloodline. This is one disaster after another. He should have entered the sacred remains recently. However, no one knows what is in the sacred remains. This doesn't mean that it is a good thing. "Brother, have you discovered it?" Lin Feng looked at the demonic blood plate. Lin Zhan nodded. Due to the magnetic field, the needle keeps changing. Although it is slightly off, there's a fixed range. "Pa!" Lin Feng pressed the button, and the red lightning stopped. He stared at the demonic blood plate carefully and kept changing its position to test it. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. He suddenly activated the red lightning, and a clear map appeared on the screen. Lin Feng's fingers tapped on the screen, and his voice was activated. Destination, the Egyptian pyramids. He wasn't 100% sure, but at least the possibility was much higher than Babylon. "We're almost there." Lin Feng looked through the window and saw the sandstorm that filled the sky. The dusk of the setting sun illuminated this ancient land. It was like the border of earth, vast and boundless. This was the ancient kingdom of Egypt. There were no buildings in sight. There were only deserts, hills, mountains, and mysterious pyramids. Micro-video projection. "Teacher," Lin Zhanjing said. "Senior Sharjah." Lin Feng looked behind Sharjah. It was filled with a strange and indescribable aura. The entire desert was like a prison, eerie and terrifying. Lin Feng's heart suddenly trembled. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. "Senior Sharjah, what is this place?" "The Saint Relic Pyramid." Sharjah's handsome face said. It shone with a holy light. "The smell of blood here is extremely thick. It is said that the strong warriors of the demon race like to consume the flesh and blood of other strong warriors to increase their strength and replenish their energy." Sharjah's lake blue eyes were crystal clear. "We guessed right. That fiend of 10 is hiding in the Pyramid of Divine Remains. There are no survivors around the Divine Remains Pyramid. Even the Pharaoh. I'm afraid they've all been killed." Sharjah's voice was a little heavy. Lin Feng's expression was solemn. The Pharaoh was originally ranked 8th in the world. But in Egypt, with the power of the Pyramid of Divine Remains, his strength could reach the pinnacle of the title. Therefore, the ancient kingdom of Egypt had always been independent of the 7 major countries. Even the ambitious countries had not touched it. But now, whoosh, whoosh, the wind blew the sand all over the sky. Lin Feng's heart trembled inexplicably. Suddenly, the micro-video screen made a buzzing sound, as if the signal was affected. A few wavy stripes flashed across the screen. A human face seemed to vaguely appear in the wind and sand. It quickly turned into a huge lion, shining fiercely. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The lion statue turned into wind and sand and dissipated. The screen skipped frames. Snap! The micro-video projection suddenly cut off. It fell on Lin Feng's heart like a tight string breaking. What happened? Lin Feng quickly reacted and contacted Sharjah. However, there was no signal. It's very strange. Lin Feng closed his eyes. The golden dragon in his consciousness protected his innate talent. He carefully recalled what he had seen just now. There was an indescribably strange atmosphere. The place where Sharjah was like the habitat of a demon. How could there be such a sinister and terrifying feeling in the divine remains domain? It was too strange. Is it that demon? Lin Zhan had already stood up. From his expression, he could see that his brother was nervous and anxious. Lin Feng comforted him. Don't worry, brother. With Sharjah's strength, even if he can't defeat that sickle demon, he can at least protect himself. He was not lying. He had seen Sharjah's strength with his own eyes. Even now, he could not defeat Sharjah in a one-on-one battle. The red lightning landed. Whoosh, whoosh. Two figures appeared. What a strong smell of blood. Lin Zhan had already put on his golden saint robe and was ready to fight. Be careful, brother. Lin Feng looked around vigilantly. He felt an inexplicable fear and apprehension in his heart. He felt as if something was looking at him from the sky. It was as if he was in a cage, and there was a pair of eyes staring at him from outside. Was it an illusion? The pyramid of divine remains. Swoosh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He walked slowly in the direction of the pyramid. It was not hard to find. It was an open area. The pyramid stood high in the sky. It was hard to not find it. The dusk of the setting sun brought with it a poignant yet beautiful feeling. It cast a dark red hue on the ground. Lin Feng moved his feet, constantly vigilant of his surroundings. He was getting closer and closer to the Saint ruins. 1,000 meters, 500 meters, 200 meters. He looked up at this magnificent building. Lin Feng's heart was beating wildly. Looking at it, one would feel their own insignificance. A tremendous power protected this pyramid. Even after countless years of being battered by wind and rain, the millions of boulders remained intact. Every boulder weighed several tons, and there was nothing stuck between them. Yet they were all seamless. Not even the thinnest blade could pierce through them. This was a building that returned to its original state. It surpassed elemental technology. Wait a minute. Lin Feng was stunned. Where did the Sphinx go? Lin Feng looked around and found something strange. The Sphinx that had been lying on Egypt's Kisha platform and guarding the Saint Ruins pyramid for countless years seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was not even a shadow. Not only Lin Feng, but Lin Zhan was also stunned. Suddenly, whoosh, a strong gust of wind blew without warning. Sand and rocks flew. Lin Feng was looking around when his vision blurred. Even the magnificent Saint Ruins pyramid suddenly disappeared from his sight. The entire area was filled with an indescribably strange aura. It was eerie and terrifying. It felt like déjà vu this. Lin Feng opened his eyes wide in shock. He had just seen this scene. It was a video projection with Senior Sharjah. At that time, where Senior Sharjah was right here. Chapter 289. Sharjah had disappeared. Where is Senior Sharjah? Countless thoughts appeared in Lin Feng's mind. When they were talking, he was only 100 seconds away from where Senior Sharjah was. There was no reason for Senior Sharjah not to wait for him. Clearly, something had happened during this period of time that caused Senior Sharjah to mysteriously disappear. Side demon? Lin Feng sensed his surroundings. Although the airflow was strange, it was stable. There was no chaos from a battle. Apart from that, the possibility was very high. It was obvious. It's a sacred site. Lin Feng was secretly on guard. If it was the scythe demon, things would be simple because he came for it. But if it was the pyramid of sacred sites, things would be complicated. Even with Senior Charge's strength, he could silently disappear. The pyramid of sacred sites. Unfathomable. Brother. Lin Feng turned his head and was suddenly startled. Wind and sand swirled around, and the sky was filled with hazy yellow light. A gloomy and terrifying aura enveloped the area. Lin Feng spun on the spot like a spinning top. His eyes shone as he called out again, "Brother?" There was still no answer. The surroundings were dead silent. Big Brother had also disappeared, and he had strangely disappeared before his eyes, as if he had been swallowed by the air. Clang! The 9 underworld thunderblade fell, and thunder and lightning intertwined. E.T. Lin Feng frowned deeply, and his killing intent emerged. At this moment, whoosh! A strong wind suddenly blew. It was extremely oppressive. The sky became even darker and more terrifying. The wind was howling and the rain was gloomy. In an instant, as if brought by the strong wind, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. It roared and attacked. It was a monster that looked like a lion. Its mane pierced its head, and the roaring lion's body appeared in the wind and sand. Its appearance was extremely terrifying. Spring thunderstorm. Lin Feng stepped forward. His hand rose, and the blade fell. A trace of rebounding force came from the blade. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Elementary destruction. Destruction. It was equivalent to a human legend. On land, in the wild areas of the world, all of the Annihilation-class monsters were no bigger than a pair of palms. Compared to the Annihilation-class monsters in the ocean, the difference was more than 10 times. Information about the destructive monsters on land appeared in Lin Feng's mind, but there was no such monster that resembled a lion. Whoosh! The lion monster in the sandstorm suddenly disappeared with the strange sandstorm. The air seemed to have frozen. The next instant, on the left and right, 2 almost identical lion beasts suddenly appeared. The only difference was that they were twice as fast this time. This time, Lin Feng saw it clearly. The lion monster had a spiky mane on top of its head, and its entire body was covered in thick brownish-yellow fur, like the dry sand in the desert. Chi! His claws struck out like lightning. They were not the claws of a lion-type monster, but the claws of a dragon. They were covered in layers of keratin and thick scales. It is indeed very strange. Lin Feng was somewhat surprised. His body shifted to the side. Facing the Dracolic monster's attack, the 9 Serenity's thunderblade slashed out with a bolt of spring lightning, killing it right away. Behind him, a roar pierced through the air. Lin Feng dodged to the side. With the same clean slash, he killed the second monster. Middle-level destruction, Lin Feng said to himself. He could clearly judge the strength of the Dracolic monster. He felt a faint sense of uneasiness in his heart. A gust of wind suddenly rose around him, as if it had angered the gods of this area. He could not see any aura around him. A demon seemed to have awakened. In an instant, pa, 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 4 Dracolic monsters suddenly appeared in front of him, behind him, to his left, and to his right. Their bodies were larger, and their muscles rapidly erupted with power, like steel that had been refined countless times. The Dracolic monsters' eyes flashed with fierceness and ruthlessness. Their stormy attacks were more than 10 times stronger than the second wave. Thud! Lin Feng's saber realm was extremely powerful. Countless fierce battles had honed his strong fighting spirit and accurate judgment. 5 Thunderous explosion. It was the same single-target attack, but the 5th strike was far more powerful than the first. The perfect level purple thunder saber technique fully demonstrated the dominance of Lin Feng's saber technique. Even if it was just the power of ordinary thunder and lightning, it had incomparably tyrannical power. In the face of the Dracolic monster's claw attacks, it attacked like a gust of wind. Boom! With absolute strength, it broke through. It is indeed high-level destruction. Lin Feng felt a strong recoil force that sank into the fire scale, Saint Robe. It was like a stone sinking into the sea, weakening it by more than 90%. Lin Feng was immediately satisfied. The strength of the defense was just as he had expected. Pausing and turning, In an instant, Lin Feng displayed the purple thunder saber technique clearly. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Swoosh! The saber flashed. Lin Feng killed the fourth Dracolic monster. To him, this was just a small test. He did not use the Blue Thunder Holy Aura. After the last battle, the Blue Thunder Holy Aura had not fully recovered. Holy Aura could not be cultivated on Earth, so replenishing and recovering it was a big problem. At the moment, he should save as much as he could. A mere high-level destruction monster could be dealt with just physical strength and saber technique. With the Fire Scale Saint Robe, it was even easier. Are there any more? Lin Feng carefully scanned his surroundings. The ferocious gale calmed down once again, and the place fell into a temporary silence. But it was deeply terrifying. The first time, a beginner-level destruction monster. The second time, 2 intermediate-level destruction monsters. The third time, 4 high-level destruction monsters. The fourth time, Lin Feng was secretly shocked. If there really was a fourth time, and 8 monsters beyond the destruction level appeared, the situation was unimaginable. Even if he was in perfect condition now, he was not sure he could win unscathed. Suddenly who? Who? The brief silence instantly turned into an even more mournful roar. The wind and sand swept up the smoke and dust like a hurricane. The power was stronger than any previous time. Lin Feng's eyes flashed with fighting spirit, and he was ready. Come! Lin Feng was full of fighting spirit. The Blue Thunder Holy Chi was activated, and the 9 secret Thunderblade was wildly flashing. However, what appeared in front of him this time was not a Dragon Lion monster, but a Dragon Lion man. It had the head of a Dragon Lion, but the body of a human. However, it was countless times stronger than a human. Its entire body was covered with long, brownish-yellow hair, like an unevolved savage. It had the same hands and feet as a human, but its claws were exactly the same as the Dragon Lion monster. Its cuticle was segmented, and it was densely covered in dragon scales. Boom! The Dragon Lion man waved his fist fiercely. The wind from his fist carried a special power. Sand and stones flew, and the wind howled. It was no longer a monster's fighting style, but a human's fighting style. As soon as Lin Feng made a move, he knew the strength of his opponent. It was almost the same as his big brothers. The combat power of a beginner monster. Swoosh! Lin Feng faced it head-on. Boom! The 9 secret Thunderblade slashed, and the Dragon Lion man turned into a shadow and disappeared. Lin Feng stared ahead. The gloomy and terrifying aura around him calmed down a lot in an instant. The yellow sand began to retreat, and the wind gradually disappeared. It was as if a picture scroll was slowly unfolding in front of him. It was breathtaking. The magnificent and majestic sacred remains pyramid shone with golden light, appearing in front of him like a fog. At this moment, it seemed to have come alive. Chapter 290. The Divine Relic Pyramid. It really is it. Although he had expected it, Lin Feng was still shocked. It was very different from the Divine Relic Pyramid he usually saw. The golden light brought with it tyrannical energy. Its existence was like a high and mighty god overlooking its people. There were countless legends about the Divine Relic Pyramid, which made people revere it. It was a vast and complex project, and the tower was as tall as a 40-story skyscraper. If a rusty metal coin was placed in the pyramid, it would soon become golden. If a cup of fresh milk was placed in the pyramid, it would still be fresh and tasty after 24 hours. If a headache or toothache was placed in the pyramid of the sacred relic, the swelling and pain would subside within an hour, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off your shoulders. The energy of the Divine Relic. The real Divine Relic Pyramid. Lin Feng looked at the Divine Relic Pyramid not far away. Although there was a man-made pyramid in Elemental City, the difference between it and the Divine Relic before him was like a toy gun and a particle laser cannon. In the Divine Relic Pyramid, a pure white door suddenly lit up in the golden light. It was like the opening of a door of time with endless mysteries. Oh, Lin Feng was moved. You're letting me in? Lin Feng strode forward without hesitation. To enter or not was no longer a simple choice, but the current situation forced him to. He had to enter. Senior Sharjah, Big Brother's disappearance, must be related to the divine relic pyramid, and that sickle demon was very likely to be among them. Lin Feng quickly disappeared in the sandstorm. Whoosh! The divine relic pyramid also disappeared. Nation Research Institute. Dr. Jean, dressed in a light blue suit, sat on a sofa. In front of him, a holographic screen projected various technological weapons, strange symbols and codes. With a head of golden curly hair, his age could not be determined, and his skin was slightly pale. Dr. Jean looked at the codes on the screen, his hands moving from time to time. He muttered to himself, completely entering his own state. His 100% concentration caused his originally blue eyes to suddenly flash with a touch of white, instantly covering his eyes. Extremely demonic. At this moment, clack! The door of the Research Institute was pushed open. Dr. Jin's expression changed instantly, and his white eyes returned to normal, but a cold glint flashed. The current him. He was completely different from when he was at the Ministry of National Defense. Professor Kim. His voice was thick and heavy. The nuclear bomb commander was wearing a black soft armor, and his bulging muscles gave off an overwhelming and terrifying aura. How many times have I told you? Please knock on the door before entering. Professor Jean tapped the air with his finger. His expression was solemn, and his tone was as if he was lecturing his subordinates. However, the nuclear bomb commander did not show any displeasure. He just nodded and smiled. I forgot again. With the status of a nuclear bomb commander, why would he need to knock on the door? Professor Jean did not continue the topic and asked, "Is it done?" The commander nodded and said, "Professor Jean, I just don't understand. What is the activation of the Bermuda Triangle Crystal Pyramid?" Professor Jean glanced at him. "You don't need to know." "All right." The commander shrugged and didn't press further. If other people saw this, they would be speechless. Was this still the powerful and barbaric nuclear bomb commander? Right now, it was as if he was a completely different person. "Don't worry. If you help me, I will naturally help you." Dr. Kim adjusted his glasses. "I've already developed the Destroyer 3 missile. Its frontal attack power is S-150, and its radiation power is between S-100-120. It's enough to break through an SSS-grade defense system." The nuclear bomb commander's eyes lit up. "I know you've always been ambitious. You want to take over the ancient Hellas country and wash away your shame." Professor Jean said indifferently, "Go. Now is the best opportunity." The nuclear bomb commander was taken aback and frowned. "But the ancient Hellas country has Sharjah, with the Leo Gold St. S. Carter, even if we have the Destroyer 3 missile. If we want to take over, I'm afraid." "Just do as I say," Professor Jean said. "Oh." The nuclear bomb commander raised his eyebrows in an instant. However, Professor Jean did not say anything more. He waved his hand and closed his eyes. It was as if he was asking him to leave. The nuclear bomb commander did not mind. Although he was tall and strong, he was very smart. He suddenly grinned and laughed heartily. The towering and terrifying muscles on his body trembled violently. He clenched his fists and left excitedly. The pyramid of the holy relic was like a change in time and space. As soon as he stepped in, Lin Feng instantly felt as if he was completely isolated from the outside world. It was as if he had entered a shattered void, and also as if he had walked into an endless tunnel. White light flickered in front of him, colorful lights all around, and a tyrannical power of heaven descended with a rumble. Boom! Boom! A snort came from the tip of his nose, like thunder. Space seemed to shatter, and time became extremely slow. Lin Feng felt as if his breathing had stopped. A figure taller than the sky appeared in his mind. An extreme pressure came, as if it was suppressing a tiny ant. Crack! Crack! His muscles were compressed, and his bones were broken. Lin Feng felt as if his body was shattering bit by bit. In an instant, an intense pain attacked his heart. This. Lin Feng's face was deathly pale. He never thought that he would have such an outcome the moment he entered the pyramid of divine remains. He seemed to hear the breathing of the demon god in his ears. The entire space was shaking. It was hard to imagine how powerful such an existence was. Lin Feng felt as if his body was about to be crushed. An invisible force pressed down on his head like a pair of hands. No! Lin Feng could not make any sound. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. His heart was extremely unyielding. Lin Feng's body trembled, wanting to defy the will of heaven. He forced himself to raise his head, wanting to see the appearance of the demon god clearly. Even if he was unable to escape death in the end, it did not mean that he would admit defeat. This was his persistence, his unyielding character. Oh, a voice that seemed to be filled with contempt and disdain. He was like the high and mighty heaven, looking down disdainfully on all life below. With a raise of his hand, he could decide the life and death of a life. At this moment, those who are not qualified are not allowed to receive the inheritance. Trespassers die. The ice-cold voice was like a machine without any emotion. It was speaking in a strange language, but Lin Feng could somehow understand what he was saying. Lin Feng was also very depressed. What did he mean by those who are not qualified are not allowed to receive the inheritance? It was clearly the pyramid of divine remains that had opened its doors and let him in. But now he had to die. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with anger as he played with human life in the palm of his hand. However, he was unable to say anything. Time seemed to have stopped here, and he was unable to move at all. Unless he could transcend the limits of time, let alone speak, even blinking his eyes was a luxury. Powerful restraints, this was the true power. The power of heaven. Chapter 291. Unyielding. Lin Feng felt an intense unwillingness in his heart. He was unwilling to die like this, unwilling to fail like this. Lin Feng was even more stubborn than his older brother, Lin Zhan, and had an even stronger will to fight. Just as his mother, Ji Ruhua, had said, he was as indomitable as wild grass. No matter how the wind blew or the rain battered him, he would not fall. Using all his strength, Lin Feng raised his head, wanting to see heaven's appearance clearly. His body had already been crushed beyond recognition. Heaven's existence didn't seem to use any strength, not even a thought. Just the pressure of his aura alone was already so powerful. The absolute difference in strength was on full display. Pa! 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 The sound of bones shattering stimulated Lin Feng's expression to become even more twisted. He was like a god. Lin Feng used the last of his strength, looking like his soul had scattered. Finally, he caught a glimpse of heaven's appearance. It was an illusory face with a pair of bright eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything in the world. Their eyes met. This was Lin Feng's first time seeing heaven's eyes. They were like the deep starry sky, countless times more powerful than Saint crystals. In an instant, his heart fell. Suddenly, Lin Feng came to his senses. A strange energy flowed through his body, completely repairing his shattered body. This sacred and powerful energy turned into warm currents that fused into his body. What accompanied it was an ice-cold voice. Master's order is to give you an extra chance. The sacred remains entrance can only be maintained for 3 days at most. If your mind expanse cannot reach the minimum of 60% within 3 days, you will forever disappear from the endless universe along with the temporary entrance to the sacred remains, your body and soul destroyed. Bang! The cold voice exploded in his heart. In an instant, Lin Feng felt that everything around him had returned to normal. Right now, he was in an endless void tunnel. He seemed to be floating in the air, but under his feet were illusory clouds that could not be seen or touched. His surroundings were multicolored and filled with all sorts of energies. This is the sacred remains entrance. Lin Feng quickly sorted out his thoughts. The feeling of time flowing was particularly obvious in this entrance passage. Streaks of light shot forward from behind him, as if they were transforming the passage of time into something that could be seen with the naked eye. However, that tyrannical and powerful heavenly might from before was able to stop time. How powerful! 3 days. Brain expanse increased to 60%. So this is where the qualification lies. This is the minimum requirement to obtain the inheritance. Lin Feng finally understood. His mind expanse was still a distance away from 59%. It would be difficult to reach it within 3 days, much less 60%. Looks like it's not necessarily a good thing to be stronger. Lin Feng felt helpless in his heart. The 3 consecutive waves of attacks from the Lion Men in the Saint Remains Pyramid had been like a test. Basically, anyone who passed this test would at least have the strength of a legend rank expert and would naturally have the qualifications to obtain the inheritance. Unfortunately, he was an exception. Lin Feng felt helpless. However, he was still quite relieved. At least Senior Sharjah and Big Brother Lin Zhan weren't as unlucky as him. 3 days. I have 3 days. Lin Feng was surprisingly calm. It was useless to blame the heavens and others. In the face of danger and predicament, the most important thing to think about was how to solve it, not escape. Although it was almost impossible to increase his mind expanse to 60% in 3 days, how would he know without trying? If he couldn't change the rules of survival, then he would have to adapt to it. I will definitely succeed. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He couldn't fail. 2 methods. First, cultivate the soul of talent. Second, cultivate the soul of earth. Heartless chart, level 6. Lin Feng quickly circulated his spiritual energy to cultivate the Heart Sutra. Although it wasn't as good as the 9 Dragon scripture, it was enhanced by the 2nd stage of the True Dragon Holy Power. In addition, the 6th stage of the Soul of Talent had a deeper level of absorption and accommodation. Just the improvement of the mind expanse was several times faster than the Soul of Earth. However, this won't do. Normally, it would take around 13 days to reach 60% mind expanse. Lin Feng made a clear judgment and shook his head. Immediately, Lin Feng circulated the 6th stage of the 9 Dragon scripture. He had already mastered it. Phew! Lin Feng inhaled and exhaled. The heaven and earth energy here was much stronger than on Earth. However, it couldn't be compared to the ancient divine dominion. If I cultivate the 6th stage of the 9 Dragon scripture alone, it would take around a month to increase my mind expanse to 60%. Even if I focus on cultivating both at the same time, 10 days is a must. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. If the heaven and earth energy here was stronger, and he could cultivate using holy power or holy chi, the situation would be very different. He was confident that he could even do it for 1 day, let alone 3 days. However, there were no ifs. There must be another way. Lin Feng didn't give up. Legacy assessment. If you can't pass, you will die. What an arrogant tone. Lin Zhan was like a beam of light, shuttling through the boundless desert ocean. His surroundings were white, and it was difficult to determine his direction. The scorching airflow baked the area. The thin air absorbed the moisture from his body. He couldn't see the end or the end. I even made it through the Lion King's secret realm. It's just a small desert secret realm. What's so difficult about it? Lin Zhan's eyes were bright, and his battle intent was awe-inspiring. However, he couldn't hide his worry. I wonder how Offing is doing now. Is he also in this desert secret realm? Or has he yet to enter the Saint Remains Pyramid? Lin Zhan's eyes flickered, and his heart was clear. Suddenly, Lin Zhan saw a beam of white light. Swoosh! After entering the light door, Lin Zhan was instantly teleported. Maze! He walked in the yellow sand that filled the sky. Sharjah, who was wearing the Virgo gold saint robe, was the exact opposite of Lin Zhan. One was active while the other was still. One was firm while the other was gentle. His eyes were closed, and a holy glow flashed across his face. Sharjah's steps didn't seem big, but each step seemed to traverse through time and space. The legacy assessment of the Saint Remains Pyramid. I've never heard of it. I wonder if it's an opportunity, a challenge, or a conspiracy? Like Lin Zhan, Sharjah also stepped into the light door. Whoosh, he disappeared in an instant. Ha! A sinister and strange laughter sounded. It was a ghost-like figure that was 3 meters tall. Its body flashed with dark green stripes, and it looked ferocious and terrifying. Scythe Demon's supremacy walked freely in this desert area. He didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Instead, he enjoyed it very much. Unlike Lin Zhan and Sharjah, he didn't need any defense at all. Just by relying on his strong body, he could resist the loss of water in his body. What was shocking was that his broken right arm had completely recovered. There were no visible injuries at all. Although I don't know what happened, but the records of the demon race are right. Earth is an unparalleled treasure land. Ha ha. It's not bad to play with the legacy assessment. Chapter 292. It was an impossible task. For Lin Feng, he was indeed facing a limit. It was not that there was no way. If he could cultivate the 7th level of the 9-Dragon scripture, the problem would be easily solved. However, the prerequisite for cultivating the 7th level was the 6th stage of the soul of the earth. Moreover, it was impossible to master the 7th level of the 9-Dragon scripture in 3 days. The only way now is to raise the soul of the earth to the 6th stage. Lin Feng's goal was clear. As long as he raised the soul of the earth to the 6th stage, he would be able to absorb a large amount of spiritual energy into his body. Not only would it greatly improve his physical fitness, but it would also rapidly expand his mind. There was still hope for him to reach 60%. Most importantly, there is no better choice. Lin Feng shook his head. This was different from combat. Combat was ever-changing, and he could try all kinds of methods. However, cultivation was cultivation. Without hard work, there was no way to improve. The only way was to take one step at a time. There were shortcuts. 3 flaming scaled fruits left. Lin Feng took out 3 ugly fruits. He had picked 18 in the ancient divine realm. 15 of them had been consumed. The remaining 3 were intended to be used to replenish his energy after the Crimson Fire holy aura was exhausted. After all, it was a waste to consume them now. It was impossible to raise the Crimson Fire holy aura to the 2nd stage. Although it can only raise part of the soul of the earth, it's still better than nothing. Lin Feng did not hesitate and consumed the fruit. The absorption of holy aura would lead to the absorption of spiritual energy. Lin Feng knew that the absorption rate was about 10% in the ancient divine realm. Although the energy of 3 flaming scaled fruits was not much, each fruit could raise the soul of the earth by 2%. The rest could only rely on cultivation. Ruthless Spectrum, 6th level. 9-Dragon Scripture, 6th level. How much could he cultivate in 3 days? Lin Feng did not think about it. This was not something he could control. All he could do now was to use his energy to the limit. Under pressure, people were able to accomplish things that seemed difficult in the past. For example, it was definitely difficult to do multitasking in the past. Whether it was the Ruthless Spectrum or the 9-Dragon Scripture, the difficulty of the 6th level was quite high, especially the 9-Dragon Scripture. Lin Feng had only mastered the 6th level not long ago, but now he could perfectly perform both. On the first day, Soul of the Earth increased from 89% to 93%. On the second day, the Soul of the Earth reached 97%. The third day, boom, the depths of his dantian shook violently, causing the Soul of the Earth to undergo a great transformation. The 36 golden threads suddenly split into 2 branches and landed on the meridians of his body. The golden light bloomed with spiritual chi, and the crimson fire holy chi and the blue lightning holy chi were excited. Whoosh whoosh. 108 golden threads wrapped around his dantian. The golden rays of light were like brand new cells and atoms, perfectly merging with his dantian. The golden threads turned into tiny veins, connecting all the meridians in his body. The golden light gathered in his dantian, condensing his new power. It was extremely refined. His spiritual energy had reached its peak. It scattered in all directions, rapidly strengthening his physique. For Lin Feng, this was undoubtedly another great breakthrough in strength. After all, he was the strongest. It was the body. For ancient martial artists, the stronger their bodies were, the stronger their combat power was. Feeling the majestic spiritual energy, Lin Feng's heart moved. He was very clear about his own strength. Previously, He didn't have the confidence to face Sharjah, but now that the soul of the earth had broken through, he had the power to fight. Although he couldn't defeat Sharjah, it was at least a 50-50 situation. Compared to the battle at the Sky Devil Sect, it was much stronger. But now, Lin Feng didn't care about the improvement of his strength. What he really cared about was brain expanse. Hiss, tyrannical, spiritual energy. Compared to the fifth stage breakthrough, it was much larger and more detailed. It was strengthening the bone cells. At the same time as the skin meridians, it seeped into the depths of his mind. The unknown territory was explored layer by layer, and his mind became clearer and clearer. This was the password of the body, the power of the soul, the foundation of human beings. 59, 0%. 59, 3%. 59, 5%. The spiritual energy was majestic, pouring down like rain. Just as Lin Feng had expected, once the soul of the earth transformed, it would greatly increase his mind expanse. The first thing it did was break through to 59%, and not long after, it reached 59, 3%. However, it continued to decline, and the infusion of spirit energy quickly weakened. It was like the ebb and flow of the tide. Not enough. Far from enough. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly. There were less than 8 hours left in the 3-day period. However, his brain expanse felt full, and the soul of the earth's transformation came to an end. The spiritual energy infusion had reached its limit. However, the expansion of his brain expanse stopped at 59, 7%. It was difficult to advance any further. 0, 3%. It was a very weak distance. However, even if he had 3 more days of training, he wouldn't be able to reach it. Lin Feng was facing a desperate situation. Sacred Relic Pyramid. Deliberately mystifying. Scythian supremacy sneered. A sandstorm blew across the sky, and a golden door appeared in front of him. It was no longer the white door of light. Scythian supremacy took a deep breath, and his expression was very comfortable. A blood-red glow flashed across his eyes. The inheritance test is boring. However, for the sake of the energy, I'll play with you. Scythian supremacy's aura was stronger than 3 days ago. He was even stronger than when he fought the Sky Fiend sect. The flesh on his chest was still wriggling like maggots, but his recovery was quite good. Scythian supremacy gritted his teeth. The blood of great Sky Fiend Chiyu is indeed extraordinary. After this tribulation, it's only a matter of time before I become a demon king. Damn Blue Moon Clan. When I return, I will destroy all of you. I will take revenge. Scythian supremacy's figure disappeared into the golden door, and his eyes were bloodshot. However, in an instant, his expression changed drastically. You have passed the first stage of the inheritance test. It was still the same cold voice. Not only was it cold to Lin Feng, but it also treated all the candidates equally. Take note, you're the third to pass the test. You are the only one who can obtain Master's inheritance. The sky was filled with yellow sand. It was like gold in the desert. Lin Zhan closed his eyes and immersed himself in this desert that was filled with wind and sand. A strange power surged out from him. It was as if there was a wind behind him that kept blowing at his body. Lin Zhan raised his hand. It was as if he was holding a handful of sand in his hand. It was like sand condensed from the wind. It was also like a hurricane condensed from yellow sand. I didn't expect the sandstorm holy energy that I almost obtained in the desert of the ancient divine territory will be recovered here. Lucky. Lin Zhan opened his eyes. The sand in his hand moved as if he was the master of this desert. Lin Zhan glanced around and teleported. He stopped and said, "So, the exit is there." Lin Zhan laughed. His laughter was forthright. He took a step forward and said, "It seems like I am the last to pass the first stage of the inheritance test." Chapter 293. It was truly a hopeless situation. Lin Feng clearly understood how terrifying the power of heaven was. Just its aura alone was enough to destroy his body and soul. This was a god that truly possessed supreme power. Indeed, it looked down on the weak and trampled on the lives of humans like ants. But this was the law of the jungle, the world of the strong. Just like humans, didn't they also look down on other beasts like ants? Any existence that stood at the pinnacle of power was the same. There are less than 8 hours left. Lin Feng thought to himself. The word give up didn't exist in his dictionary. However, following the rules was useless. With only 8 hours left, even if he cultivated with all his might, he wouldn't be able to increase his mind expanse by 0.3% in a short period of time. It could be said that he could completely give up on the normal path. What could he do in 8 hours? Lin Feng looked around. This was an extremely strange region. There was an endless corridor and an ocean of colors. This was a temporary, teleportation portal. The destination is clearly the pyramid of sacred remains. Therefore, the heaven and earth energy here is much stronger than Earth's. Unfortunately, I still can't fully absorb the saint power and saint chi, but it should contain a portion of stellar energy. The second universal energy. Lin Feng clearly remembered what Senior Lion said. Planetary energy was the first universal energy and contained spiritual force and spiritual chi. The second universal energy was stellar energy that contained all kinds of saint power and saint chi. In terms of quality, it was much better than the first universal energy. When I cultivated the 6th level of the 9-Dragon scripture, although it was weak, but my blue lightning Saint Chi's recovery speed is indeed several times faster than Earth's. Lin Feng's state of mind was clear. Earth naturally had stellar energy, but it was very weak, extremely weak. The absorption of Saint Chi was closely related to the soul of Earth. In the ancient divine realm, Saint Chi was truly absorbed. It led to the strengthening of the soul of Earth. On Earth, it was the soul of Earth that absorbed and led to the recovery of Saint Chi. There are 2 paths. The first is to continue cultivating and comprehending to master new Saint Chi. This was somewhat illusory, but just like how he obtained the true dragon saint power back then, there was no warning. When the cells absorb enough energy, the body would naturally gather Saint Chi and saint power. The second path is the breakthrough of blue lightning Saint Chi. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It was different from the crimson fire saint power. His blue lightning holy chi wasn't just the first level. That day in the primordial divine realm, it was a blessing in disguise and formed the blue lightning holy chi. After that, he absorbed a large amount of residual blue lightning power. Although 10% of it was absorbed by the soul of the earth, the remaining 90% was transformed into pure holy chi. He was not far away from the second stage. He stood up. Lin Feng took out the 9 Serenity's thunder saber, his eyes flashing. Indeed, his lightning talent wasn't that strong. He was far inferior to lightning, but his fate with lightning was not small. From the birth of the 9 Serenity's Thunderblade, to meeting Senior Xiang Yu in the Saint Crystal Array, to obtaining the blue lightning Saint Chi in the ancient divine realm. It could be said that everything was predestined. I hope you can help me overcome this crisis. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. It didn't matter whether he obtained new holy chi or increased his holy chi by 1 level. Just like the transformation of the soul of the earth, he could obtain a lot of energy. Although it wasn't much, it was more than enough to increase his mind expanse by 0.3%. Compared to the first path, which was illusory, it was like a bubble. Lin Feng chose the second path without hesitation. Practicing the saber. The 5th strike, violent thunder shocking the 9 heavens. The 6th strike, thunderous explosion of the 5 mountains. Each strike was more powerful than the last. Lin Feng wasn't afraid of exhausting his strength. The 9 Serenity's thunder saber attracted the power of lightning and entered his body. Although it wasn't strong, it was faster than normal cultivation. What was introduced into his body was pure lightning power, which was absorbed by the blue lightning Saint Chi and turned into the power of blue lightning. With every strike, the blue lightning Saint Chi was increasing. 9 purple lightning strikes. Each strike is stronger than the last. The power of lightning attracted is the same. The 7 strikes power of lightning is dozens of times stronger than the first strike. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. The more he endured, the more he would absorb. Let's try the 8th strike. The saber move clearly appeared in Lin Feng's mind. He had already simulated it countless times, including practicing it in Elemental City. However, compared to the first 7 strikes of the 9 purple lightning strikes, the 8th strike was still a long way off. It was only at the first glimpse level. But if he didn't calculate the power and only calculated the attraction of the power of lightning, it was another matter. Clang! Lin Feng held the 9 Serenity's thunder saber tightly. Senior Xiang Yu's saber move imprint flashed in his mind. It was extremely domineering and earth-shattering. With a strike, the lightning condensed into a ball of lightning. It split into 2, then 4, and then 8. It was endless. BZZT. BZZT. The ball of lightning suddenly split into 2. Lin Feng couldn't control the violent power anymore. The 9 Serenity's thunder saber roared and the ball of lightning shot out. However, the power of the first glimpse level was far from the real purple lightning saber technique. First glimpse. The ball of lightning is split into 2. The power of lightning absorbed just exceeded the 7th strike. 20% more. 20% more. 20% more. It meant that the power of lightning absorbed was 20% more than normal. Moreover, it was just right for him to practice his saber. Increase the level of my saber move understanding. Lin Feng was shocked. If I can split the ball of lightning into 4, the power of lightning absorbed can be increased again. Lin Feng's state of mind was clear and transparent. Absolute pressure and fatal danger could often force out the strongest potential of humans. This had been proven countless times. Boom, boom. Lin Feng practiced his saber without any distractions. He broke through the bottleneck. The 8th strike, heavenly lightning, slaying true dragon. Lin Feng was extremely domineering. He completely imitated the Overlord Xiang Yu's saber move. He immersed himself in it and deeply understood the intent of the saber move. At this moment, he seemed to have entered the world of the Overlord Xiang Yu and turned into the concept of the saber move. The 9 Serenity's thunder saber was extremely compatible. 100 strikes, 1,000 strikes, 10,000 strikes. Almost 2 strikes in a second. It was as if he had returned to the time when he practiced the saber move Cho. He enjoyed the purest form of saber practice. A total of 7 hours passed. Lin Feng had made 30,000 strikes. They were exactly the same. They were deeply engraved in his heart. Domineering. He wasn't willing. He wasn't willing to die here for no reason. He wasn't willing to be defeated like this. He had a monstrous domineering aura. He thirsted for battle and challenge. The 9 Serenity's thunder saber seemed to have sensed Lin Feng's sudden increase in the realm of the saber technique. It howled, and the power of lightning roared. It felt like déjà vu. It was exactly as domineering as the Overlord Xiang Yu. Boom! Lin Feng struck with his saber. His eyes were focused and unyielding, just like the saber in his hand. Bang! 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 The 4 balls of lightning roared along with the Overlord's saber energy. There was only 1 hour left. Lin Feng finally comprehended the concept of the saber move. The 8th strike proficient. Right at this moment, an icy cold voice that caused Lin Feng to be shocked and bewildered resounded out. You've obtained the qualifications to begin the inheritance test. A white light appeared in front of him. Lin Feng's eyes widened. Before he could react, he disappeared in this endless corridor. Third update. There is one more update to be continued.